4 days ago, there were 10 teams playing in the CCBL, and now that number has been narrowed down from 10 to 4. The Harwich Mariners, one of those teams, after beating a Chatham squad that had the number one overall seed in the East in a 2-game sweep. They will meet the other team that had a 2-game sweep in the YD Red Sox. Hello, everybody. I'm Tyler Henry, and welcome into our broadcast here live from Red Wilson Field, where in just a few moments the YD Red Sox will be playing host to the Harwich Mariners in Game 1 of the Eastern Division Eastern Division Final for a chance in the actual CCBL Final. And Colin, this one should be good. Again, the two teams left in the East both getting sweeps. Harwich doing it in 2-0 fashion over the Chatham Anglers. YD doing it in 2-0 fashion over the Orleans Firebirds. These are two teams that not only are hot, but also that had an opportunity to rest up yesterday on a much-needed actual off day.
Yeah, I'm sure they were really happy to have that off day. And the good thing about it is both teams also had an off day before the playoff started. So generally speaking, pretty well-rested teams for both teams. But that doesn't mean they're not banged up, of course, with YD down one of their biggest players in Wyatt Young, who won't be in the lineup today with an injury. He's been a presence in that leadoff spot, so it'll be Brad Beasley taking his spot up there at the top of the order. But generally speaking, between these two teams, they have played some of the best games throughout the entire CCBL this season. You look back at the game right here at Red Wilson Field, where the YD Red Sox came back down 4-1 to take a 5-4 victory. And then another game in which we were forced to tie because it was late in the season and they had the rules in place, whereas no game could go further than 9 innings. But YD was able to tie things up in the top of the inning, and Harwich was able to make things interesting in the bottom half, but couldn't come around to score, so they had to settle for a tie. So two teams that have played some great games against each other this season. I expect nothing less in this series.
So let's take you through the season series. It started off with a game here. Actually, it was a game at White House Field, which the YD Red Sox were able to get a victory 3-1. And in that game, Jack Leftwich got the start for the YD Red Sox. He is no longer with the team. Buddy Hayward for Harwich also not with the team anymore. In Game 2, the Harwich Mariners bounced back and won in a 4-2 win, and 3 of those 4 runners were put on base via a walk. Game 3 saw the game you mentioned with Jared Weatherby and Joe Boyle coming in late and struggling, and Jack Thomas Wald, of course, blasting the 3-run home run that allowed YD to come back late in the game. They get the victory 5-4. In Game 4 of the series, Harwich got a big-time 9-3 victory. 2 of the 3 YD runs came from home runs from Brad Beasley and Austin Wells, and Harwich rallied late with 5 runs in the 7th inning, including Dylan Noisey's second home run of the game, the day where he really took off. Then there was Game 5, where there was the tie, as you mentioned, back home. Harwich had the bases loaded, left them that way with nobody out, and then also left Daniel Cabrera on second base, so that one ended 4-4, and then an offensive onslaught that ended with a YD victory 13-7 here at Red Wilson last. But these are two teams, Colin, that have played very differently at the tail end of their seasons, as Harwich is 5-3-2 in their last 10 games, and coming into the postseason, this is a YD team that finished their year at 3-6-1. So they did get a lot of momentum back, and how big was it for YD to come back, get the 2-game sweep against Orleans, and come in today well-rested and feeling good about themselves?
Well, it's really important considering how good of a team Orleans was at the time of that playoff series. They'd been one of the hottest teams in the entire league. They had that big victory against the Harwich Mariners in that doubleheader towards the end of their season, but Orleans was a tough team, and YD just took care of them pretty easily yesterday, or not yesterday, 2 days ago, in which they took that 11-7 victory, got offense from everyone in their lineup, and that's kind of been the MO for YD this season. They get offense in bunches 1 through 9, so it's going to be a tough task for the Mariners to suppress these bats, but if anyone can do it, it's obviously Harwich, one of the best pitching teams all season long.
And lately, one of the best hitting teams in the CCBL as well. The offense has really come alive, and when you look at the playoff numbers so far, obviously it's a small sample size, just 2 games for Harwich and YD, and just 3 games for Catuit and Falmouth, who are currently in the playoffs on the western side of things. We'll get into that in a minute, but when you look at who's at the top, 5 of the 7 guys at the top in batting average belong to either the YD Red Sox or the Harwich Mariners, and they may not be the names that you're expecting. The 2 guys tied for first are Hal Hughes and Dylan Noisey, who have each gone 4 for 6. Noisey has 2 RBIs, Hughes with the 1 run scored, but it was all that Harwich needed in that game against Chatham, in which they no-hit them and won that game 1-0. So these are 2 teams that are very evenly matched. We've seen a lot of really good baseball played between the 2, and let's get into who will be playing today, starting off with the Harwich Mariners lineup. Leading things off will be Dylan Noisey, who so far this postseason, as I mentioned, is 4 for 6 with 2 RBIs. Then Chris Gallant, who will get the start in left field, Noisey playing center. Chris Lanzilli gets the start in the 3-hole, hitting in first base. Joey Weimer, the right fielder. Nico Cavadas at third. Christian Fedko, the DH. Pat Winkle, the catcher. Corey Acton at second. And Hal Hughes rounding things out at the shortstop spot. On the mound for Harwich, a bit of a surprise here, Colin, is it will be Jared Weatherby, who's only got a couple of innings left before he'll have to go home for the season. But he's looking to give Harwich a good start, as he's done a couple of times so far this year already.
Well, it clearly shows that Weatherby's only going to go, at most, I would say 2 innings, but I'd probably only expect him to go 1 inning. The real question is, who will they go to after? Will they switch things up and go with a righty and Carson Seymour, who has struggled against YD this season, or will they go with their really trustworthy left-handed specialist, Will Heflin, and maybe give him an opportunity? So, a couple of options for Harwich, and I think it all hinges on what happens in that very first inning.
Yeah, it certainly does. So we'll see what Weatherby does. Let's take a look at the lineup he will be facing off against for the YD Red Sox. Leading things off for them will be their center fielder, Brad Beasley, who this year is 3 for 7 with 5 runs scored so far in the postseason. He's been tearing it up. After him will be the third baseman, Riley King, then left fielder, Austin Wells, first baseman, Tate Samuelson, second baseman, Noah Campbell, who is coming off of an injury himself. He's sat during Game 2 of YD's series against Orleans. Then the DH, Carson Taylor, catcher, Noah Cardenas, right fielder, Andrew Eister, and shortstop, RJ Yeager. And on the bump for the YD Red Sox is John Beller, who's already pitched 8 innings against Harwich this year. He's given up 9 hits, 5 runs, and he's really the best viable option that YD has. You and I kind of thought he would be the starter going into this game, and sure enough, when we got to the ballpark, he's the one that's been tabbed for YD.
Well, he's certainly been in this position before. I mean, this third start will be his third against the Harwich Mariners here at Red Wilson Field. So, very familiar environment for John Beller, the left-hander out of USC, and maybe he's learned a few things after a couple of starts. He looked okay in the first start. The second one, he didn't look as comfortable. His team was able to come back and pick up the victory in that ball game. So, it's going to be an interesting scenario, but they have been able to win games with Beller on the mound. Let's see if they can get off to a good start in this series, just like they did against the Orleans Firebirds.
Let's take a look at the overall playoff picture and just get into a little bit of speculation while we're doing the pregame festivities. So, Harwich got the 2-0 sweep over Chatham. Orleans got swept by YD 2-0. On the western side of things, both games came down to a decisive Game 3. It was Catuit coming on top of Wareham in Game 2 to move on, and they play against a Falmouth team that found their way back and won 7-1 against the Bourne Braves. So, Falmouth, Catuit, Harwich, YD, those are your 4 teams left alive in the postseason here. And let's also get into this, as this game will be starting at 4 o'clock p.m. The next game will not start until 6 because it is going to be played at Falmouth, where they do have lights. So this will be the only game, and it's going to be a quieter evening here, as we won't be constantly getting you up to date on scores. Only one other one to pass along your way. And I feel like the same can be said of Harwich. There's not a lot going on. Right now, they can settle down and focus up on this game right here and finding a way to steal Game 1 here on the road again.
I mean, it's important that they focus up on this game, considering they're just 2-3-1 against YD this season and just 1-2 right here at Red Wilson Field. So, hasn't been an ideal year against the Red Sox this season for the Mariners, but it's a whole new clean slate here in the playoffs, and Harwich has clearly got both the pitching and the bats to hang with a tough lineup like YD, so it should be a really exciting series, and Game 1 could make all the difference in the world one way or the other.
And let's talk pitching, because that's the other thing. You look at Harwich, a team that has 2 incredible starters left to go, and neither one of them is active for today. So Jacob Polish and Connor Seckler will likely go in Games 2 and 3, or if Harwich can find a way to sweep even better, one of those guys gets to go in Game 1 of the championship series, and by then Connor McCullough is going to be ready again. But I kind of like the idea of resting both of them up here. You could technically pitch Polish today, but they're going to give him another day off, and they're going to focus up on having him come back fresh and ready to go tomorrow or the day after.
Yeah, and the thing is with Polish, it seems like he pitches even better at White House Field, so if he does pitch in a Game 2, I think it's an even better scenario for the Harwich Mariners. And the Mariners also seem to hit better also at White House Field, so if they hit better at home and then they have a dominant pitcher to go along with it, it should be an ideal setup. But of course, got to take care of business today. It's going to be an interesting matchup. I expect a lot of runs being put up in this one.
Certainly could be a high-scoring game. So we'll have the national anthem coming up here in just a few moments. We will step away, and when we come back, more pregame and first pitch. All that and more is right around the corner. You're listening to Harwich Baseball on the Mariners YouTube network.
From the University of Southern
Welcome back to Harwich Mariners baseball coverage here on the Harwich Mariners YouTube network. Tyler Henry alongside Colin Casey, Matt Lucy, our producer. And before we get to the first pitch, a little bit more pregame to bring your way, as again, the YD Red Sox playing host to the Harwich Mariners here in Game 1, a best-of-3 series, and the winner with an opportunity to move on and play the winner of the West in the CCBL Championship Series. A lot on the line, and it all starts today. And Colin, let me get your thoughts on this really quickly. We talked to a lot of the other media teams in the league, particularly across the East, and I won't name any names, but there was this very, very strong sense that Harwich, despite being the 4 seed, despite finishing the year 500, and despite having one of the worst on-base percentages in the league at one point, were still the favorites to come out of the East, and so far they've shown that. Let me ask you, do you agree with that statement, and why, if or if not?
Well, I mean, it's tough because you are going up against a really strong team in YD, but if you're looking at the overall kind of scenario of what's been going on in the CCBL over the last 2 to 3 weeks, then it does make a lot of sense. I mean, Harwich has been one of the better teams all around since then in all aspects of the game. Their pitching has always been there. The batting has gotten better and better as the month of July has gone on. We're into August now, and they're still finding ways to drive in runs here in the playoffs as they did against Chatham. So I think it's a fair assessment to give them as one of the favorites. I mean, there's 4 really good teams left in the entire CCBL, but of course that's why the games are played and they're not won on paper. So here comes a really big series, and it really should be a fun one to watch here in the Eastern Division Finals.
Yep, and it all starts right here as Dylan Noisy, the hottest hitter in the Harwich lineup, will stand in from the left side to face off against John Beller. Beller, the big lefty out of USC, comes set. Red Sox, Mariners, we are underway. First pitch is an off-speed that catches the zone for strike 1. And really quick note on Dylan Noisy, he is going to be wearing number 4 today, and hopefully just today. We will get you updates on this, but his jersey, gloves, spikes, and about everything else that he had as he fouls this pitch back to the screen were on his bag, and somehow it fell off the bus on the way down here, so they're looking for that somewhere between here and Harwich. For the time being, he will be wearing number 4, which is typically held by Daniel Cabrera, who of course had to leave early due to having a class. Here comes the 0-2. Noisy will pop this one high in the air. Chasing it over is Samuelson, and he'll make the catch over down the first base line in foul territory for out number 1.
And hopefully for Noisy, it didn't work out in that at-bat, but Daniel Cabrera was one of the big catalysts in this Mariners lineup when he was with the team, especially in the month of July. He seemed to get on base every time he batted leadoff and would come around to score. So now it's up to Noisy who's to be in that spot, and he certainly got the job done last series. We'll see if he can continue that success over into the semifinals.
So here comes Dylan Noisy, here's Gallen. Gallen hitting .286 this year against the YD Red Sox. He squares around the bunt and pulls it back to take strike 1. And of course, Gallen, a guy that had one of the hottest streaks among all Harwich hitters, at one point hitting over 500 over the course of 10 days. But he's cooled off a little bit coming into the postseason here. Trying to find his footing again and get Harwich started with 1 away here in the first.
Gallery for the Red Sox.
Chris Lanzilli, of course, standing on deck right now. And let's get you take a look at the umpires today. It'll be John DeGirolamo. It's quite the mouthful there. Behind home plate, Joe Labella at first, David Perry at second, and Rudy Fernbach is your umpire at third. The 0-1 pitch to Gallen. He will send that one sharply back beyond the third base side bleachers.
Yeah, he was way out in front of that pitch. I mean, he just kind of yanked it off to the left. It looked like Gallen kind of pulled the string with a changeup, and Gallen was sitting on it, but he was way out in front. So now he falls behind. Beller doing a good job of getting ahead of these hitters.
Here's the 0-2 to Gallen. That one will be skipped in the dirt well ahead of home plate. So nothing doing there. Let's set you on the YD defense. Noah Cardenas gets the start behind home plate. Tate Samuelson at first. Noah Campbell at second. R.J. Yeager at short. Riley King at third. Austin Wells in left. Brad Beasley in center. And Andrew Eister is starting in right field. Here comes Beller's 1-2 pitch. That'll be swung on and misses. Gallen climbs the ladder. And that'll be strikeout number 1. Out number 2 here in the first.
Gallen got a little over anxious after sitting on that first pitch, and he kind of got a little too aggressive at the plate with a 1-2 count. Beller just kind of went with a chase fastball up and away, and Gallen obliged.
So here comes Chris Lanzilli, one of the hottest hitters in the Harwich lineup over the course of the last few weeks of the season. And a pretty good hitter against YD as well. 7 for 19, 6 RBIs against the Red Sox, and he will offer at the first pitch a fastball for strike 1.
The big thing with Beller is trying to get as many innings out as he can. We've seen him go only about 4 or 5 innings in each of his starts against the Harwich Mariners. Let's see if he can go deeper today.
A one's going to be spiked off home plate as Lanzilli fights off yet another pitch. And we've seen a couple of pitchers' duels between Harwich and their playoff foes. As both games against Chatham, relatively low scoring. Harwich did have the big outbreak in which they were able to strike for 4 runs in the second inning, and that's all they needed. And Colin, that's something we've seen over the course of the last week or so. Harwich getting 1 big inning and letting that sustain them as the 0-2 is swung on and missed. Back-to-back Ks here for John Beller, and that will end at the top of the first. So we go to the bottom of the first. YD will be sending Brad Beasley, Riley King, and Austin Wells up when we come back on the Harwich Mariners YouTube network. Welcome back to Red Wilson Field. Tyler Henry alongside Colin Casey as we go to the home half of the first inning. And Colin, a new pitcher, or an interesting pitcher choice for Harwich, is Jared Weatherby will get the start. We talked a little bit about him pregame, and let's take a look at what he's done this year. A 3.69 ERA through 11 2/3 innings pitched, 4 runs given up on the year, 14 strikeouts to only 7 walks and 1 home run allowed. And he's looked really good. The only hiccup of his entire season really came here at Red Wilson Field against YD in that game where they mounted a late inning comeback.
Yeah, that's been pretty much the only blemish outside of the Falmouth walk-off home run that he had given, but it was really just one pitch in that game. So generally speaking, Weatherby's been very reliable for the Mariners this season. The great thing about having Weatherby go the first inning or two is all of a sudden you kind of change the pitcher that you're going to see after that. You go from a hard-throwing relief pitcher like Jared Weatherby and then go to a starter or a long reliever depending on what Coach Englert goes with. So this might be a move to kind of keep these YD hitters off balance early in the ball game.
Certainly could be. So it'll be Weatherby again getting the start here for Harwich, and the lineup he'll face will look like this. Brad Beasley plays center and leads off for the YD Red Sox. Riley King, the third baseman, hitting second. Hitting third and playing left field, Austin Wells. Hitting cleanup and playing first is Tate Samuelson. Then the second baseman, Noah Campbell. DH Carson Taylor. Catcher, Noah Cardenas. Right fielder, Andrew Eister. And shortstop, R.J. Yeager. First pitch from Weatherby is a high fastball that misses for ball 1. Let's set the Harwich defense for you. Pat Winkle gets the start behind the dish. Chris Lanzilli at first. Corey Acton at second. Hal Hughes at short. Nico Cavadas at third. Chris Gallen in left. Dylan Noisy in center. And Joey Weimer in right. Next pitch is another high fastball that misses for ball 2. And Weatherby's behind here to start the count here to Brad Beasley.
And the big thing about the YD lineup that's out there right now is a ton of them are so good against left-handed pitching. So those first 5 guys can be really dangerous if Jared Weatherby's not too careful.
Weatherby's 2-0 pulled something there. That was an odd pitch, an off-speed that once again misses high. So everything's been up here to Brad Beasley to start this at bat. Of course, Weatherby just had the 1 1/3 against them this year with 3 hits, 3 runs, and 1 walk given up. And he is going to start off Brad Beasley with a 4-pitch walk to start his outing.
Yeah, definitely not the ideal start for Weatherby, putting a guy like Beasley on the center fielder who's got 3 steals on the season. And we'll see how aggressive Scott Pickler is early in the ballgame if he wants to send the runner and test the arm of Pat Winkle.
So here comes the wrecking crew. Riley King, Austin Wells, and Tate Samuelson due up next for the YD Red Sox. Riley King this year hitting .375 against the Harwich Mariners. And so far through the playoffs, he's 3 for 8. All 3 of his hits, Colin, have been for doubles. So a couple of extra base hits, or a couple of big extra base hits for him, and he's looking to extend that here. First pitch from Weatherby, and that will jam him. Comes right to Lanzilli, who makes the catch sitting right next to first base for out number 1.
And I know it's still early in the inning, but that is such a huge out getting Riley King, who's hitting .422 against left-handed pitching this season out. Then you go to the 3, 4, and 5 hitters where you can actually generate a double play ball and quickly get out of the inning instead of having to go through this part of the lineup with 2 on and nobody out.
And this part of the lineup gets tougher and tougher as registered Mariner killer Austin Wells comes to the plate. 11 for 20 this year, 2 home runs, 4 RBIs for the big right-hand or big left-handed hitter. He steps in to face Weatherby, the first lefty to do so, and the first pitch is going to miss once again for ball one.
And for Wells, the power numbers dip against lefties, but the batting average goes up. He's actually hitting better in terms of average against lefties at 320 compared to just 302 against righties.
Weatherby checks the runner, the 1-0 pitch. And that'll be fouled away here. So finally a recorded strike here for Jared Weatherby, who had not had a recorded pitch inside the zone. 5 balls to start his outing, but he's looking to bounce back. And again, Jared Weatherby, pretty standard starter stuff. A fastball, curveball, slider, and changeup. The lefty out of Elon comes set, delivers the 1-1. And that is going to be ripped into the gap in right center field. It'll get down for a single as Joey Weimer picks it up and rifles it in. So 2 runners aboard here to start the YD first inning. And Colin, this is what we've seen out of YD before, but Harwich has typically been able to get out of it unscathed.
Yeah, usually they've been able to get out of these situations, but you think back to that second inning and that blowout loss for the Mariners right here at Red Wilson Field. I think the 13-7 was maybe the final score in that one. Austin Wells had a 4-hit game, and it seemed like everyone in the entire lineup had an RBI in that ballgame. So the important thing here for Harwich is don't let things get out of control.
Weatherby will step off the rubber to think things over. He clearly wants a moment to consider his pitch as he will now face the cleanup man, Tate Samuelson. Samuelson is hitting 4 for 8 with 4 RBIs so far in the postseason. And the first pitch he sees from Weatherby is a fastball down the pipe for strike 1.
Yeah, Samuelson, we haven't seen a lot of him or the guy on deck, Noah Campbell, over the last couple of games between these two teams, and in large part due to the fact that there's been a lot of righties going out there for Harwich.
But finally a lefty on the mound, and that gives Whitey an opportunity to flex the left side of their muscle. Samuelson steps in, the 0-1, big swing and a miss at a ball that comes back and catches Pat Winkle in the mask. Count goes 0-2, and Weatherby has him right where he wants him.
And with a couple of big left-handed bats in Jack Thomas Walton, Jake Palmer on the bench, I wouldn't be surprised if Scott Pickler goes to his trademark pinch hitters at some point in this game.
Wouldn't be that surprising, and again, Scott Pickler has a habit of bringing in a lot of talent late in seasons. So we'll see who all he has available. But here it's Tate Samuelson, an 0-2 count. Runners on first and second and 1 away here in the top half of the first. Jared Weatherby sets, checks the runner to second, brings the pitch home, and there's the big changeup, or a big breaking ball, I should say, as that one is fouled down the third base line.
It seems like that pitch is coming in at like 40 miles an hour, the way he's able to pull the string on that curveball. He just is able to take off so much velocity, and right there, Samuelson was swinging probably before that ball even left his hand.
Fortunately for him, he's able to catch up to it and at least put the wood on it, so he'll live to fight another pitch. Weatherby ready with the 0-2, 1 away in the inning. Harwich infield back at double play depth. The 0-2. And that one's going to be taken down the right field line, but foul. So once again, struggling to straighten it out is Tate Samuelson. Why are you looking to jump out on Harwich early?
Looked like Chris Lanzilli kind of reacted to go back towards that ball and actually bumped into Austin Wells, so those two are having a couple of laughs together over at first.
Got to think Chris Lanzilli is probably one of the funniest guys on this team. Always laid back, always a smile on his face, and he gets back to work here, as does Jared Weatherby. Still an 0-2 count on Tate Samuelson, as it has been for the last few pitches, and finally he will deliver a pitch that misses low and away. Count goes 1-2. Of course, a 4 o'clock start time here at Red Wilson Field. No lights, so trying to make sure that even with extra innings, no matter what happens, they get this game in its entirety. Already one tie this year, although that was not due to lighting conditions. That was due to a CCBL restriction. The 1-2. That one's going to be flared, and it's going to get past the glove of Hughes at short. They will hold the runner up, and the bases are going to be loaded here. 3 singles for YD, and with only 1 out, they are once again in big-time business here in the first.
Well, that was almost a disaster, in fact, for the Red Sox, as Brad Beasley, the leadoff man in the inning, immediately went back towards second because he thought that ball was going to be caught. Then he realized it got down. He kind of stumbled a little bit and was barely able to make it to third base, so almost a huge second out for the Mariners, getting the force at third, but instead the bases are going to be loaded with a dangerous bat and Noah Campbell at the plate.
Yep, Gallen came in and fielded it well, but plenty of speed for Brad Beasley, and he's able to move up to third with little to no difficulty. But as you said, that could have been a big disaster if he couldn't have gotten off second quickly enough. So here is Noah Campbell, another guy who's torn Harwich up this year, 6 for 14 with an RBI, looking to pad on to those numbers. First pitch to him from the lefty, and that'll be fouled back into the Harwich dugout. Everybody looking out over there. A new old face in the Harwich Mariners dugout. It's Jacob Hurtubise, who of course is not available to play today, but he's sticking around to watch his former team go as far as they can here on the Cape.
Just kind of tells you about what kind of teammate that Jacob Hurtubise really is.
And of course, the ex-Harwich Mariner who was released went to Orleans, and then once Orleans' run came to a close, he's here to support the M's as Weatherby drops a pitch into the dirt to make the count 1-1. And unfortunately, due to other CCBL restrictions that make a lot of sense, once a team is eliminated from the playoffs, those players are no longer eligible to go to anybody else's team.
Yeah, it wouldn't exactly be fair if all of a sudden you saw Max Troiani end up on one of these teams.
Although if he came to Harwich, I'm sure the Mariners wouldn't mind.
Nope.
So with a 1-1 count, Weatherby sets, bases loaded. Here comes the pitch, and that one's going to be chopped to second. It's playable. They go Acton to Hughes. He can't come across and get the second out. They throw back to third. Safely sliding back in is Austin Wells, who had rounded the bag. So Brad Beasley's going to come in to score. It'll be ruled a fielder's choice as Campbell moves up to first, and the first run of the game belongs to the YD Red Sox.
Well, clearly the Harwich Mariners aren't facing the Chatham Anglers lineup anymore. I mean, we saw how much they struggled for the most part in that series. This team, the YD, knows how to drive in runs, and all series long against Orleans, they would take outs for runs. We saw a lot of RBI groundouts, sac flies, and they're doing it right here, and it makes a lot of sense when you're going up against tough pitchers. Get runs any way you can.
For Harwich, if they can get out of the inning with only one run given up, it'll still be a pretty big victory for them, especially with the way the offense is playing as Weatherby breezes a fastball past Carson Taylor. And Colin, you mentioned Taylor hasn't had a ton of experience against Harwich this year, has he?
He certainly hasn't, but he did make the most of it when he had that 3-run home run against Harwich at White House Field. But against lefties, it has been a nightmare season for Taylor. He is 0 for his last 13.
So we'll see whether or not that holds now that you've brought it into the light as the 0-1 pitch is going to miss for ball one.
I mean, last time he didn't have a hit all season long when Harwich was able to, or when Taylor was able to jump the yard for a 3-run shot against the Harwich Mariners.
It's been one of his few hits and all 3 of his RBIs, I believe, to this point in the season. Weatherby with a 1-1 count on him now brings the pitch home to the righty, and it's a big breaking ball once again swinging through the slow-mo pitch as Carson Taylor. That might be one of the slowest curveballs we've seen in the entire CCBL, and it's great when it works, but if you're expecting it, oh boy.
And it's even better when you don't expect something that slow coming in from a relief pitcher.
So Weatherby with one more strike left to get. Harwich looking to put this first inning to bed, down just 1-0. Runners at the corners, the 1-2 pitch. And that'll miss low and inside. Taking up to second there was Noah Campbell. He kind of stopped halfway because I think he thought that pitch was in the zone for strike 3. Then it wasn't called strike 3 by the home plate umpire, and he goes all the way up to second now.
Yeah, heads up play because now he should be able to score on a base hit. He's got plenty of speed as a second baseman, so a huge hit from Taylor could really break this game open in a hurry.
Carson Taylor has just 3 RBIs this year. All of them have come against the Mariners. Here comes the 2-2 pitch. There's the curveball again, and that'll miss wildly outside. Good stop by Winkle, and the count has been worked full here. That's the other thing for Carson Taylor. If he can find a way to get on base and get them to Noah Cardenas, who has been shredding Harwich pitching this year, that would be an even bigger victory at this point than getting a hit. The DH stands in from the left side. Weatherby sets, checks the runner, brings home the payoff pitch. And it'll be fouled away. We'll do it again. Interesting thing, Colin, here that, as you mentioned, Carson Taylor, not a great hitter this year, but he's being used in the DH slot here today. It's not even like they have him in there just for his defense.
Yeah, and I think some of it might have had to do with his previous success against Harwich, and he did kind of pick things up. He had his second home run of the season immediately after the Harwich game, so he had a hot stretch to end the season, and Coach Scott Pickler is going to give him an opportunity here today.
A big opportunity indeed as he stands in his first playoff at bat against the M's, and once again he'll foul it off. If nothing else, he's getting into Jared Weatherby's pitch count, although knowing Weatherby's innings limit, that's probably not something that will come into play here. He's free to throw all the pitches he likes.
Already is action in the Mariners bullpen, so it looks like it's just going to be the 1 inning for Jared.
See whether or not Carson Seymour comes into the game for the second inning of play. But for the time being, it's Austin Wells on third, Noah Campbell on second. 2 away here in the bottom of the first inning, a 1-0 lead for YD as they look to add. And Carson Taylor at the dish. Payoff pitch, swing and a miss, strike 3. There's the curveball once again from Jared Weatherby, and that will do it. So Harwich gives up 1. They'll look to get it back when we come back here on the Harwich Mariners YouTube network. Welcome back to Red Wilson Field. Tyler Henry alongside Colin Casey as we go here to the second inning of play. It'll be Joey Weimer to lead things off for Harwich, then Nico Cavadas and Christian Fetko to follow him. So we'll see how Harwich responds here after giving up 1 run in their half of the first. Whitey, of course, scratched Brad Beasley across on a Noah Campbell fielder's choice. So Weimer stands in. He's hitting .286 against Whitey this year. The first pitch to him is a fastball that misses in the dirt for ball 1.
Mentioned YD scratched across that first run. They are 2-1 against Harwich in the regular season when they've scored first.
And, of course, they've had a couple of come-from-behind victories, or at least non-losses, as Weimer pops that one a mile high and well into foul territory for strike 1 of the at-bat.
Yeah, the only one in which they did not win was that 2-home-run game from Dylan Noisy in a 9-4 victory at White House Field.
See whether or not Noisy has another big day. So far, just 0 for 1, but still very early in this one. 8 innings of baseball left to play at a minimum. This game will go ideally until its conclusion. Of course, there is always the possibility at Red Wilson Field that it does get too dark, as Weimer's going to send this one over down the first base line, and that will drop foul. So the count goes 1-2 here on Weimer. Weimer, a slow start to the postseason. I believe just 1 for 7 throughout the Chatham series. But, you know, Colin, a lot of the bats were kind of quiet. It didn't really matter, as, again, Harwich completely shut down Chatham, allowing just 1 run a game throughout those 2 games.
Yep, including that big shutout, which was a combined no-hitter in Game 1 after Connor McCullough and Joe Boyle getting the job done.
So here's the 1-2 to Weimer. He will pop that one foul, and he must have lost it for a moment as he bowled it down the first base line. But yeah, I mean, a combined no-hitter, and then a game in Game 2 where they didn't allow a single run to come across until the 8th inning of play. They didn't allow a solid hit until the 8th inning, too. So really a solid outing for the Mariners pitchers all around. The 1-2 pitch to Weimer, swing and a miss, strike 3. And that is 3 straight strikeouts here for John Beller. He is really starting to feel it.
Yeah, and it's the fastball on all 3 of them, a fastball high. The first 2 were out of the strike zone where Gallen and Lanzilli chased it. This one, it looked like it was right at the top of the strike zone, and Weimer simply couldn't catch up to it. So John Beller, he didn't have so much success with his fastball in his first couple of starts against Harwich. We're seeing a different John Beller so far in this one.
So here comes Nico Cavadas. First pitch to him is a fastball in there for a strike. Cavadas, of course, is technically speaking 0 for 4 on the postseason, but he has reached base 4 different times, a hit by pitch and a couple of walks for him as well. So he's found his way on. We'll see whether or not he does that too here as Beller's 0-1 pitch is swung on and missed. And Cavadas looked kind of lost on that one, a fastball well low and well below the bat of Nico.
And Nico looking to break out against YD. He's just 4 of 23 in the season, but he does have 3 RBIs.
Here comes the 0-2 pitch. Swing and a miss. Strike 3. John Beller is just mowing down hitter after hitter. That is 4 consecutive strikeouts. And if I'm not mistaken, the last couple have come on less than 5 pitches.
Yep, and another one on a fastball. He continues to pound the zone with the fastball. Very through breaking pitches thrown so far. I think he threw a couple to Chris Gallen, and that's pretty much been about it. So John Beller being a power pitcher today, and so far it has certainly worked.
And it's not an overpowering fastball. Scout Report has it between 87 to 89, and he has a slider and a curveball to supplement that with as he'll face Christian Fetko. First pitch to Fetko is fouled back to the screen. Christian due for a big game as, again, he's been kind of quiet the last couple of weeks, looking to bounce back and try to start something for the M's here with 2 away in the second.
Great opportunity, though, against the left-handers. He's hitting .368 on the season against left-handed pitching. That is one of the big reasons why he had that hot streak. He faced a lot of lefties.
Here comes the 0-1. That one's going to be in the zone as Beller took a little something off that one. And the count goes 0-2 here on the Yukon Husky. Nico Cavadas, again, you mentioned one of the best histories against left-handed pitchers. Here comes the 0-2 to him, and that'll miss high. A fastball to make the count 1-2.
I mean, big problem in the season, earlier in the season, I mean, really early in the season for Harwich was strikeout numbers, and the hope is that this isn't kind of going to return now. You're going to want to try to put the ball in play against a guy like John Beller.
Here comes Beller's 1-2. That one's going to be roped right at the shortstop. It'll be dug out by R.J. Yeager. He throws across in time for the 3rd out of the inning. So 2 more strikeouts for John Beller, who has faced 6 and retired 6. We go to the home half of the second. YD looking for more runs on the Harwich Mariners YouTube network. Welcome back to Red Wilson Field. Tyler, Henry, Colin, Casey bringing you coverage of Harwich Mariners playoff baseball. And Colin, a bold move here as Jared Weatherby will be sent back out there to face at least the bottom third of the order here after giving up just the one run back in the first.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting move. I mean, the YD bottom of the order isn't your typical bottom of the order, especially against left-handed pitching when you guys got when they've got guys like Noah Cardenas, who has done so well against Harwich this season, 4 of 9. That's actually the highest batting average among anyone on the roster against the Mariners. So you've got him, you got Andrew Eister, who's got a couple of homers against left-handed pitching, and you got R.J. Yeager, who isn't the best with the bat, but he's considerably better against left-handed pitching than he is against righties. So going to be a tough part of the order, but it's important for Weatherby to get through it cleanly, because then all of a sudden you have that vicious top of the order coming up immediately following.
And I'm glad you brought up R.J. Yeager, because he was put into the lineup along with Hall. So the two of them were thrown in there in lieu of Noah Campbell and Wyatt Young, who missed games during the first couple of series, and they combined to go 0 for 9. So it's been a tough start for them, but again, very fortunate for the YD Red Sox that they're able to get Noah Campbell back in the lineup. Wyatt Young remains out with some form of an injury. So here comes Noah Cardenas to lead things off, and he will sky the first pitch he sees up. It's playable for Winkle, and he will glove it for out number 1.
Yeah, that could potentially be a really big loss for YD. I mean, even though they have such a good lineup, Wyatt Young hit .338 this season and drove in 23 runs, primarily batting from the leadoff spot, which is really impressive. And especially in this series where he's had success against the Mariners, he had that game-tying RBI in the 9th inning at a game at White House Field just a week ago. So could be a big loss, but this is a guy who, one of the guys that they expect to step up in his place in terms of generating offense is this guy right here, Andrew Eister.
Yep, and Eister's had mighty struggles against Harwich pitching this year, hitting just 1 for 10 on the season. He'll watch the first pitch miss low for a ball, a fastball from Weatherby, and the count starts off here 1-0. So yeah, these bottom two guys in the order are really the only two that have not been producing throughout the postseason for this team. And again, Eister just 1 for 10 against the against the Mariners this year. So the 1-0 pitch is on its way. There's the breaking ball, and that's in there for strike 1.
Eister out of the University of South Carolina, along with his teammate Noah Campbell. And you mentioned Campbell back in the lineup. At least they have him back. Without either of their starting middle infielders, it could be a really tough day for YD.
He's already driven in 1 run as Weatherby takes a little something off that and makes it a 1-2 count as Eister swings over the top. So Andrew Eister looking to get things started again here for the YD Red Sox, who stranded 2 runners on base, both in scoring position back in the first inning. Still just a 1-0 game, still very early here in this one as Weatherby sets and deals the 1-2. And that'll miss high, a fastball to even the count at 2 apiece.
Neither team has had a shutout against each other this season, so I don't expect there to be any shutout today, despite the Mariners having a rough couple of first 2 innings. So it's important for YD to tack on some more insurance runs if they want to win this ball game.
Weatherby's 2-2. In there for strike 3 as he nibbles on the low and outside corner. And that'll be the first strikeout looking of the day, courtesy of Andrew Eister.
It's good to see Weatherby bounce back. I mean, that leadoff walk kind of got him out of his rhythm against Beasley to be in the ball game, but he seemed to settle down towards the end of the inning. He got a much-needed ground ball from Noah Campbell. It did bring home a run, but it set up that strikeout against Carson Taylor for him to get out of it. And since then, he's looked a lot more calm on the mound.
In Weatherby's defense, not a lot of teams go through the YD order without giving up at least something, as this one's going to be roped down the left field line. That'll get down in fair territory, and it's going to roll to the corner. R.J. Yeager on his horse. He'll get to second with a stand-up double, and that'll be his first hit of the postseason. And well, you said they're going to be looking for some offensive production for him, and I'd say they found it here as they've got a runner in scoring position with 2 away.
Yeah, I remember another 9-hitter at this ballpark breaking out of a slump going down that left field line. It was actually Hal Hughes for the Harwich Mariners earlier in the season. He was able to pull one down that left field line and leg out 2 bases. It's exactly what Yeager does, and now with 2 away, all of a sudden YD is the top of the order coming to the plate.
Yep, here comes Brad Beasley, who reached on a walk and scored the only run of the game back in the first inning. It was a 4-pitch walk as, again, Weatherby just didn't look his comfortable self out there to start this game. He's been used as an opener now a total of 3 times, but he will look to get him here the second time facing him. He brings the big curveball home, and that just narrowly misses inside for ball 1.
I mean, do you realize how insane it is that YD has 4 of the top 5 guys in the regular season in batting average at the top of that list? It is absolutely absurd.
It is a wild, wild lineup, and the only reason they're not the 1 seed in the East has been their pitching, which we'll get into in a moment, but it's not been very good this year for the Red Sox. Weatherby with 3 looks back to second and then spikes it in the dirt. It's off the glove of Pat Winkle, and that's going to allow R.J. Yeager to move up to third. So another insurance run is just 90 feet away here for the Red Sox with Brad Beasley at the plate and a 2-0 count.
Yeah, and I think the real issue for YD specifically has certainly been that bullpen. We've seen some inconsistencies from some of the guys coming out of the pen. One of the big ones was Carlos Lamelli. He really struggled against Harwich this season. Should be interesting to see if we see him at all in this entire series. But back right now on the mound, Jared Weatherby desperately needs to get this out with the runner on third and 2 away.
Yeah, this is a big one here. A 2-0 count again on Brad Beasley, who'd be content to work another walk here, but he'd be more content to drive in the run. Here comes the pitch. It's a high fastball that'll miss once again, and well, Weatherby's at risk of walking Brad Beasley on 8 pitches 2 times. Of course, Harwich Mariners pitching this year with a 5.19 ERA against the YD Red Sox. YD hitters are hitting a 304 clip, and there it is. Ball 4 once again to Brad Beasley. That'll put runners at the corners for Riley King, who Weatherby was able to retire the first time up.
Yeah, I'm not surprised he's pitching carefully to Brad Beasley because despite the 2 through 5 guys in the league in average are Wyatt Young, Noah Campbell, Riley King, Austin Wells, all from YD, you look a little bit further down the list, and all of a sudden you see another name in Brad Beasley, 12th in the league in average.
So here comes Riley King, who, as you mentioned, is one of the top hitters in this lineup. Even without Wyatt Young, they've still got 4 guys at the top of the order who can get on seemingly at will. Runners at the corners, first pitch will miss outside here, and that's ball 1 to Riley King.
Wonder if we'll see Beasley try to take second base to get 2 guys in scoring position.
Certainly no threat of the double play, but not a bad idea. And Winkle, if he does throw down, you have always got the risk of R.J. Yeager making a mad dash home. Here comes the 1-0 pitch from Weatherby. That one's going to be chopped right at the shortstop. Hughes picks it up, fires across in time, and the inning is over. So no damage done, but a couple more runners stranded for the YD Red Sox. They still lead at 1-0, and we go to the third here on the Harwich Mariners YouTube Network.
We also want to recognize and thank Franklin Sport.
In just 1 inning, the YD Red Sox were able to do something that the Chatham Anglers were not able to do throughout the first 13 that they played, and that is not only get a hit but score a run against the Harwich Mariners. So Colin's going to be up to the offense to try to provide something here, and so far it's been a tough look against John Beller, who has cut down 4 guys already via strikeout. He's faced 6, he's retired 6, and here comes the bottom third of the order looking to make some noise.
Yeah, I mean, you want to talk about somebody that's in the zone. I watched John Beller jog out to the mound. He just tossed the rosin bag around a couple times, then spiked it into the ground right before throwing warm-up pitches. So this is a guy who is not messing around. He wants to get some revenge against Harwich after not having exactly the best of outings against them earlier in the regular season. So we'll see if he can continue it. He's got a couple of left-handers coming to the plate.
Yeah, and again, it's really interesting for a guy who doesn't have an overpowering fastball how heavily he has relied on it so far today. But again, he'll face Pat Winkle, Corey Acton, and Hal Hughes. First pitch is on its way, and Winkle will swing at that one and miss, strike 1. And there's the off-speed that we see here from the first pitch. We didn't see that last inning, and it had Winkle sitting on a fastball. That's not what he got.
Yeah, and you wonder if maybe he's going to try to mix it in and become even more tough to pick up there on the mound.
0-1 pitch just narrowly misses inside, but the count goes 1-1 here on Pat Winkle. Of course, Winkle, Acton, and Hughes, 3 of the guys who have been some of the hotter hitters in the Harwich lineup over the course of the last few weeks. Corey Acton looking for his first postseason hit. He is on an absolute tear riding into the end of the year, and this pitch from Beller will again narrowly miss on the inside half as Pat Winkle very, very patient to lay off of that one.
Yeah, and for Winkle, his lone home run of the season came here against a left-handed pitcher, so see if he can repeat that, maybe tie things up.
2-1 pitch. Winkle sends that one into right center field. That'll chase the right fielder Andrew Eister over, and he'll come in and make the catch for out number 1.
He had hit that home run off of Legend Smith, who actually went
The second baseman.
2 days ago in the Game 2 against Orleans. He didn't have a great outing, but we saw how back and forth that game was offensively, and in the end, YD was able to take advantage of a couple of costly Orleans errors and pull away late in that ball game.
Yeah, that was a game where Orleans went up 4-0, then YD took it back 4-5, Orleans 6-5, YD 7-6. It was tied at 7. Orleans took it back 8-7, and then the YD Red Sox get the win 11-7. So a lot of lead changes in that one. YD trading punches as the first pitch into Corey Acton is strike one. John Beller comes set, very quickly working out of the windup. The southpaw deals, and he's got Acton out ahead of that one as well to make the count 0-2.
Acton had quite the resurgence late in the season. Last couple of weeks, he started to really put the ball in play more and reach base. Let's see if he can continue that in this series against YD.
0-2 from Beller, swing and a miss, strike 3. There is strikeout number 5 for John Beller here, and now he'll face the last guy in the order, and one of the hardest guys to get out recently. It's Hal Hughes, who's currently leading everybody in batting average for the postseason. 4 for 6, a run scored, and against the YD Red Sox, 8 for 23 this year with an RBI. This is the ideal man to try to get something started here for the M's.
Yeah, you have the lone run scored against Chatham in the 1-0 victory, and then he just picked up where he left off 2 days ago. Still in that 9 hole, he was able to pick up another hit.
First pitch to him is a breaking ball in there for strike 1, as once again John Beller will face off against a right-handed hitter. Hughes in his first debut of the day will ready up for the 0-1 pitch, and here it comes. Fastball in there for strike 2. John Beller has had almost everybody in this lineup at one point or another down 0-2. He has not been messing around with the strike zone at all in this game. And he will try to retire Hal Hughes for a 6th strikeout. Here comes the pitch. And Hughes, a little excuse me swing, fouls that one back to the fence to stay alive.
Yeah, real quick, the only guy who actually hasn't had 2 strikes on him in the count was Pat Winkle earlier in this inning. So everyone else has had their backs up against the wall against Beller, and he hasn't had the count full at any point in this ball game.
Beller from the windup, kicks and deals the 0-2. Swing and a miss, strike 3, and that is going to be strikeout number 6 for John Beller. He is locked in and feeling it today, and Harwich is going to have a tall task trying to score some runs. YD will look for a few more when we come back here on the Harwich Mariners YouTube network.
25% off of select items.
Welcome back to Red Wilson Field. Tyler Henry alongside Colin Casey. A new pitcher coming into the game for the M's. It will be Carson Seymour, and this is about what we expected here, Colin, as you talked about the success against lefties for this lineup. Now they'll face the hard-throwing righty in Carson Seymour.
Yeah, an interesting decision here, as we weren't really sure what the move was going to be, whether it be Heflin or Seymour, wherever the way it was going. But, it makes sense. You force Scott Pickler to have a lineup prepared for lefties. You have the 2 innings from Jared Weatherby of a run on 3 hits. So now all of a sudden you kind of have the advantage at the plate in terms of matchups on a lot of these guys. But again, it's the YD Red Sox. They have guys that can hit against lefties, righties, basically any pitcher that someone can throw at them.
So coming up for the YD Red Sox, it will be the heart of the order. Carson Seymour is getting thrown right into the fire with Austin Wells, Tate Samuelson, and Noah Campbell coming up. And for as good as Carson Seymour's been this year, one of his only stumbles came against the YD Red Sox in that blowout victory. He allowed 5 runs in the second inning of that one, and while Harwich did rebound, they were unable to come up with a victory, so he'll have to shake that out of his memory. Again, pitchers have to have a very short memory, and Seymour very likely will be coming in with a fresh mindset to this one.
Number 16, Austin Wells.
The Arizona Wildcat will lead things off, and Austin Wells, the left fielder today, is already 1 for 1 with a single. and he just continues his streak of finding ways to get on against the Mariners. Again, this is now 12 for 21 this year. 2 home runs and 4 RBIs. Here comes the first pitch, and he will take that one into into center field, but charging in and making the catch is Dylan Noisy for out number 1.
And there's the kind of opposite field power, I'll say, as that ball was hit mostly to center field. It was tailing off to the left a little bit, but that's kind of the swing that Wells has. It's got a natural slice to it. The ball will kind of go away from a center fielder to its right, but Noisy's got a lot of speed. He was able to get there in time, and there's a much-needed first out to begin the outing for Carson Seymour.
So Tate Samuelson will step to the plate for his second time. He is also 1 for 1, and he will roll the ball lazily down the third base line. I think lazily is a word. Either way, he is 1 for 1, as I mentioned, just the single back in the first. So far, just 1 extra base hit, and it came from the 9-hole hitter, R.J. Yeager, who had the double.
Samuelson went 2 for 4 with a couple of RBIs in that 11-7 victory over Orleans, so he's seen the ball pretty well in the playoffs, and it's a big reason why he's batting in that cleanup spot.
A lot of guys have been playing their best baseball for the YD Red Sox here at the tail end of the season, as have a lot of guys on the Harwich Mariners side. Here comes the pitch from Carson Seymour. There's the breaking ball. Actually, it's going to miss outside for ball 2. Seymour ready to go. Here comes the next pitch. And that'll be swung on and tipped back into the glove of Pat Winkle. So the count's 1-2 here. Seymour, of course, just a 2-pitch guy, fastball, curveball. But he's had awfully good stuff, and it's led to him being one of the trusted arms in the Harwich Mariners rotation this year. Here comes the 1-2 pitch. That'll miss in the dirt. Good stop by Winkle, and the count is even here at 2-2.
Got a interesting note from that Orleans YD game is Scott Pickler actually attempted to protest the game after a balk in the top of the 3rd inning, but the protest was denied by the umpires.
Not a huge surprise there as the 2-2 is fouled back into the parking lot, and Scott Pickler's a guy who's going to do anything it takes to try to win, even if that means a late contest like that. But you're not going to win all of those, so here he's looking to find a way to have his squad score a few more runs on Harwich as the YD Red Sox lead 1-0 here in the home half of the 3rd. The 2-2 from Seymour. That'll miss up and in, and the count's been worked full here.
Yeah, it'd be really big for Seymour to get the first 2 guys out with Noah Campbell waiting in the on-deck circle. He drove in the lone run so far for YD.
Here comes the payoff pitch from Seymour, and that one's going to be taken to second. It'll be picked up, actually misplayed by Lanzilli, who throws from his tail end, and he can't get the runner at first. An odd play there as Chris Lanzilli came over to try to cut that ball off, and it kind of just skipped behind his back, so that'll put a runner on base with 1 away.
They're going to rule it a base hit, which I think is interesting, because I think if Lanzilli was able to field that ball cleanly, he would have probably gotten the runner out at first, but regardless, they're going to give Samuelson his second hit of the ball game.
And this could be big as Noah Campbell comes to the plate here. Carson Taylor on deck. We'll see whether or not he actually hits, and then Noah Cardenas will be up after him. YD looking to pad onto their 1-run lead. It's 1-0 here in the 3rd. Carson Seymour on the bump for Harwich. Here comes the first pitch. And that one is going to be ripped into center field, but it should stay in the yard as Dylan Noisy settles under it and makes the second catch of the inning.
And Noisy, pretty easy play out there. It seems like there's no footage markers on any of the fences out here, but it seems like with the high fence, everything looks deeper than it actually is. So out in center field, there's a lot of room for Dylan Noisy, and he's done a good job patrolling that outfield so far in this ballgame.
Here comes Carson Taylor. Yeah, the one thing we know, if you want to put one out of the yard here, it's got to be awfully high in addition to being deep. So see whether or not Carson Taylor can find a way to pick up his 3rd home run of the season as he will take one down the third base line. It's going to be in fair territory. Coming around is Tate Samuelson, and he will slide into 3rd. It's going to be a single for Carson Taylor, and the runners are at the corners here with 2 away for Noah Cardenas.
Yeah, Carson Taylor continues to grow in that middle of the lineup as Scott Pickler's given him the opportunity. The Virginia Tech Hokie has taken advantage of it, especially against the Harwich Mariners. Good inside-out swing, and he drops it right over Cavadis' head down the left field line for a base hit.
So here's Noah Cardenas, who swung at the first pitch he saw in the 2nd inning and popped it up to Pat Winkle behind home plate. But, of course, aside from that, he has 4 for 10 against Harwich this year with 3 RBIs. A couple of those came during a 3 RBI day for him against the Mariners back during the 11-7 game. Here's Seymour's pitch. Cardenas chops this one up. Cavadas comes over, picks it up, throws on to first, and Lanzilli digs it out. So once again, 2 runners will be left stranded by YD. They continue to leave runners on the base paths, and Harwich is fortunate to only be down by 1. They'll try to get the runs back again in the 4th when we come back here on the Harwich Mariners YouTube network.
Special thank you to our local sponsors.
Welcome back to Red Wilson Field. Tyler Henry, Colin Casey, still 1-0 game as we head to the 4th inning. And we'd like to remind you that today's game is brought to you by Cape Cod Healthcare. What's donated here stays here. All blood that is donated to Cape Cod Healthcare stays on Cape Cod to help the lives of your friends, family, and neighbors. Learn more about donating blood, platelets, or hosting a blood drive at capecod.org/blood center.
So it's been 9 up, 9 down so far for John Beller as he has struck out 6 batters in 3 innings of work. And Tyler, the Mariners just have struggled to even put the ball in play against a USC lefty.
And he looks fired up again. You talked about him tossing the rosin bag. He did the same thing. He sprinted out to the mound, picked it up, slammed it to the ground, and then gripped the ball. He is locked in, and Harwich, again, will have a very tall task as the second time through the order. Hopefully will grant them a base runner.
So Dylan Noyes, who popped out to first in his first plate appearance, will look to do better this time around. He had quite the game on losing track of the days on Saturday as he went 3 for 3 with 2 singles, a double, and 2 runs batted in. Go along with a walk. He swings the first pitch and once again sends it down the right side. Samuelson chases it, and he is able to make a running catch for out number 1. So Dylan Noisy, for the second time, pops out to Samuelson, and it's 10 up, 10 down for John Beller.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you get a guy who's just so locked in, so focused, and his stuff is working. And it starts to get in the head of the hitters, too. I mean, they're counting just like we are, the number of hitters that have come to the plate and been retired. Nobody's found their way on base yet, not via a walk, not via a hit. So trying to change that will be Chris Galland. He made the first strikeout back in the first inning, and the first pitch he gets.
And it's going to miss for a ball as Galland out of BC. Out of regular guys this season, he finished second on the team in batting average with a .287 clip. 2 homers, 16 runs batted in, and 1-0 misses up and away for a ball. That was actually the pitch that he chased for strike 3 in his first at-bat, that fastball up and away from Beller.
And that's got to be the thing for a lot of these guys, just being more patient second time up. We saw a lot of guys come out and try to attack the first pitch fastball and just not catch up to it.
2-0 is on the inside corner, another fastball from Beller.
And Beller knows, I mean, with the 2-0 count, he knows Gallen's not going to be apt to swing at anything, so he goes right at him there with a fastball and gets himself back into the count 2-1. He is really focused right now.
The high leg kick and the 2-1 just misses inside.
Yep, corners have not been given on either side in this game, as John D., the home plate umpire, been giving it a lot of leeway to the hitters at the dish.
The 3-1 from Beller on the outside corner for a strike. It seems like the outside is where both pitchers, well, I guess all 3 that have appeared in this game, but mainly Beller has been working that outside corner with the fastball. Let's see if he goes back to it on Galland. From the windup, the payoff pitch. And it's going to miss up and away for ball 4. So the same pitch that got Chris Galland last time he's able to take, and it's a 1-out base runner for the Harwich Mariners.
Yeah, but that may be all they need. I mean, some momentum to build off of. It's a guy with a lot of speed, the team leader in stolen bases, standing on first, and one of the hottest hitters at the plate. Although, again, Chris Lanzilli, 0 for 1 so far today, 0 for 4 in Game 2 against Chatham, and then back in Game 1, another 0 for 4 clip. So he's kind of went on that heat spike, and he's looking to find it again here at the plate after he's 0 for his last 9.
Chris Galland, the first base runner of the ball game for Harwich on first, and immediately throwing over is John Beller, but it was kind of just a lob on over just to make sure he got back.
And remember back to that first game with Chatham, Harwich got a runner on, and then they moved him over on a drop pass ball, then a drop third strike, and then a sac fly. All it takes is manufacturing one run, and this game is tied as another toss over to first to keep Galland in order is not in time.
So for Lanzilli, he struck out swinging in the first. He had an incredible week leading up to the playoffs in which pitchers were just struggling to even record an out on him as he swings and fouls a pitch straight back out towards the parking lot.
Yep, and he's fallen behind in yet another at-bat. So, I mean, he said earlier this year that being aggressive is what really worked for him at Wake Forest, and he maintained that throughout the Harwich season. He really started to put it all together at what seemed like the right time, and now maybe a little bit too aggressive at the plate here as he's gone after almost every pitch Beller's thrown him today.
Had the third highest team average against lefties this season at .351, and he waves at a fastball and misses for strike two.
And throughout that stretch, he had a day where he had 3 home runs to follow up a day where he had 1. So 4 home runs in the course of 2 days for Chris Lanzilli. The power has been there all year long, and you can see that in BP. It's just a matter of putting it together in a game sense.
Lanzilli finished season second in RBIs, as well as the 0-2 fastball misses way upstairs.
Yeah, that may have been a bit of a pitch out, just trying to keep Galland close at first, as we've seen him take a pretty sizable lead over there. We know the kind of speed he has. You wonder whether or not Coach Englert is going to send him here with a 1-2 count.
Noah Cardenas, a catcher behind home plate, is Austin Wells, who's also been a catcher this season, out playing in left field, his secondary position. As there's a high towering pop-up into shallow left. Backing up Yeager, still going back, and he's able to find it, make the catch for out number 2.
Yeah, the thing hung up for what seemed like forever, but finally able to locate it and squeeze the gloves. He mentions R.J. Yeager. That's the kind of defense you get when you put R.J. out there. So here comes Joey Weimer, who was 0 for 1 with a strikeout, looking to make something happen and maybe push the runner around and put him in scoring position with Nico Cavadas on deck.
Mariners still looking for their first hit of the ball game, as it was Galland, Lanzilli, and Weimer and Cavadas, as it was 4 consecutive strikeouts for Beller and 4 of 5 to start the ball game, so he was missing a lot of bats early on. Here he misses low, the runner Galland going, the throw is in time! A close play at second, the tag from Campbell, and out goes Coach Scott Englert as Chris Galland can't believe it over at second base.
That wasn't that close. Again, I have not contested with umpires that much this year. That wasn't even remotely close. And yeah, Steve Englert has every right to be ticked. He's going to go down and have a word with David Perry. The throw was on the front side as Noah Campbell grabbed it. He had to turn his body all the way around. By then, Galland's foot was already in there. And, well, whatever the word was from Coach E, it was very quick as the defense is going to come out here for Harwich. But, oh, my goodness, that wasn't even close.
First base coach also over there talking with them as it was Galland and Englert having a few words. The discussion with Englert was really quickly, so despite all that, it's a caught stealing to end the inning, and we head to the bottom half of the fourth. 1-0 still the lead for YD. You're listening to the Harwich Mariners Radio Network. Back here once again at Red Wilson Field for the bottom of the fourth inning, and the top half of the inning ends in controversy as what looked like an easy steal of second for Chris Galland. Instead, he is called out on a play that, Tyler, didn't really look all that close.
And upon further review, again, it didn't look close live, and it didn't look any closer when we checked the replay. So a completely missed call, but again, you got to bounce back from something like that and just find your way to score some runs here. It's still just a 1-run game, still relatively early. You got to have a short memory and put that behind you, but for Harwich, that really hurts.
So John Beller continues to now face the minimum after that caught stealing to end the inning. It's faced 12 batters, retired all of them in one way or another. So Carson Seymour on for his second inning of work for the Mariners, and he starts out Andrew Eister with a breaking ball that's in there for strike one.
Yep, and Eister, of course, a strikeout victim his first time up, looking to improve on that here and try to get something started. It seems like everybody has had one opportunity or another this game to find their way on base.
1-1 count now to Eister, a guy who's primarily in the lineup for his power. Contact-wise, he hasn't been the strongest this season, including hitting just 178 against right-handed pitching. 1-1 is foul to the backstop. But Eister has shown prowess with a bat, especially in the playoffs. He actually had a home run in Game 1 of the Orleans series. So we'll see if he continues that power against Harwich. The 1-2 pitch is a breaking ball that is airmailed to the backstop, but it is not quite the airmail that we saw the last time we came here, Tyler. I don't know if you remember this.
I do.
I believe it was Legend Smith on the mound who completely lost control of one, and it hit the backstop on the fly.
Yeah, he almost put one over the backstop in that game. That's one of the crazier things I think you or I have seen at a baseball game this year. Sometimes you just lose grip on one, and, you know, it happens to the best of us.
2-2, swung on a miss, strike three, as Seymour picks up his first strikeout, and the second time that Eister has been a strikeout victim in this one, one down in the bottom of the fourth.
And a good bounce back here again. You got to have a short memory, and there it is. Carson Seymour able to get the strikeout to start the inning. Now he'll face the R.J. Yeager, who was left stranded at third base after he doubled in the second, and that's the other big thing for YD. They've left two runners in scoring position in the first, second, and third. So wondering whether or not that might come back to bite them.
First pitch to R.J. Yeager is a called strike, it looked like, or maybe Yeager went around regardless. Strike one to Yeager, who doubled in the second but was stranded on third to end the inning. He sees a breaking ball from Seymour that just misses outside. Good tempo so far from Seymour, a lot better than what we saw the last time he pitched here at Red Wilson Field. It was a tough start for him, only going 2 innings against the Red Sox, and Yeager fouls a pitch straight back. Yeager out of Mercer. Going to make it 2 for 2 on the afternoon. He had an RBI despite going hitless in Game 2 against Orleans. The 1-2. Breaking ball up the middle. Tough play over at second. The throw is in time. An off-balance throw by Corey Acton, and he nails R.J. Yeager at first for out number 2.
That might be the best defensive play we've seen this year, not in the outfield. Again, he had to come all the way to his right, make the play over by the second base bag, turn fire off balance, and somehow he was still able to get it. What a play there by the defensive stud Corey Acton.
So 2 up, 2 down quickly to begin the fourth for the Mariners. And back to the top of the order as it's a first pitch fastball to Brad Beasley, the first strike that Beasley has seen after walking on 4 pitches in both of his prior plate appearances. Seymour's 0-1. That one's over as well. So a much different approach than Jared Weatherby had against Brad Beasley.
Yep, working very quickly here, not afraid to go right at him as he gets ahead 0-2, and now he's looking for the put-out pitch to get out of another quick 1-2-3 inning.
Here's the 0-2. Popped up foul off to the right, and that will make its way out of play. An incredible amount of fans on to watch this game, and you can really tell by all the people sitting beyond the outfield fence. You usually don't see that many people out there, and this ball's hit into the outfield and it is down for a 2-out single as Brad Beasley reaches base for the third time. He drops a single out into left center field, and now Riley King will get an opportunity with man on and 2 down.
Yep, and finally able to get there himself. Here comes Riley King, one of the only guys in the lineup who has not reached base himself, as he joins Noah Cardenas and Andrew Eister in that category, but you get the feeling that could very quickly change given what he's done this season.
Riley King hitting .323 in the regular season. That was towards the 5 and 6 hole. All of a sudden he moves up to the 2 hole here in the playoffs, and he sees a front door curveball in for strike 1. King, the Georgia Bulldog, had 3 homers and 10 runs batted in on the season. OPS just over 800. And he lines one out towards right center field. That's going to get down for a base hit. Beasley takes off. He's heading for third. He'll get in there standing. And once again, with two-way in the inning, Tyler, the Harwich Mariners have allowed runners at the corners.
Yep, and if we see Riley King come across and steal second, it will be the fourth consecutive inning that they have had runners at second and third. I mean, again, this is just getting to a point where sooner or later these runs are going to start coming across to score, and Harwich is very fortunate to only be trailing by one right now, despite being out hit 7-0.
So in digs Austin Wells, who is 1 for 2 with a single and a line out. So he seems to just slam the ball against the Harwich Mariners, and he sees first pitch breaking ball that misses up and away. Wells hit .308 on the season, 7 home runs, 26 RBIs, 2 of those home runs coming against the Mariners. But none right here at Red Wilson Field. 1-0 is fouled off on a huge cut from Wells.
And it was a really good start to the inning for Seymour as he got Andrew Eister swinging and then R.J. Yeager to ground out with a good play from Corey Acton. But the last two guys have found their way on with more singles. It hasn't been the extra base hits that's really hurt Harwich. It's been the death by 1,000 paper cuts.
So it's a 1-1 count to the Arizona Wildcat. The pitch misses low and outside. That time Seymour going with the fastball. Carson Seymour at a .506 ERA, 0-3 record in the regular season. As 2-1 is another breaking ball that kind of slips out of Seymour's hand, and he falls behind 3-1 to Austin Wells.
Yep, and this is risky because you don't want to load the bases for Tate Samuelson, who's already 2 for 2 today with a pair of hits. Granted, one of those almost more of an error, but still a risky proposition here for Carson Seymour if he can't put one over the plate here.
Beasley on third, King at first. The 3-1 misses low for ball 4 as Wells will take his base, and the bases are now loaded for the cleanup man, Tate Samuelson.
So there it is. That is the 7th and 8th man in scoring position so far today in this game. And again, they've only scored 1 run so far. If they can get out of this one, you just get the feeling that everything's swinging in Harwich's favor and they can maybe get a couple of runs put together here. But for the time being, it's Whitey's game to lose. And again, they just cannot add more runs on here.
Whitey's already stranded 6 men on base in just 3 innings. It's a golden opportunity to buck that trend and blow this lead open. Tate Samuelson out of Cal Poly, facing the right-hander Seymour. First pitch. Swinging a high fly ball out towards center field. This might get him out of the inning. Dylan Noisy comes over, and he will make the catch. And once again, the Mariners escape danger as the YD Red Sox leave 3 men on base and still only lead it 1-0 despite recording 7 hits already. We've played 4 full, as I mentioned, 1-0 YD. You're listening to the Harwich Mariners Radio Network.
7-9.
Fifth inning from Red Wilson Field. Colin Casey alongside Tyler Henry as John Beller looks to continue his dominant performance on the mound. 4 innings without giving up a hit. But Tyler, looking at the YD Red Sox at the plate, they have stranded already in this game 9 runners on base, and it seems like they really need to change their approach when they have runners in scoring position with 2 down in the inning.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. Harwich has been able to get out of a couple of really tight calls. In addition to 9 runners left on base, they've had 8 runners left in scoring position, which means they've had 4 different guys just 90 feet away not able to come across and score. So we'll see if that holds up. But again, I mean, they've gotten the hard work done. It's just been the finding ways to get guys across that little pentagon next to between the batter's box that has been the problem for him today.
So leading things off for the Mariners is the cleanup man, Joey Weimer. He struck out swinging against Beller his first time up. He will look to be the second base runner of the game for the Mariners, and he lays off a fastball up and away. Weimer, the Cincinnati Bearcat, has been with the Mariners all season long and has certainly earned his spot in the outfield. The 1-0. Ground ball to third. It's bouncing. It's off the glove of Riley King, and Weimer's going to leg that one out. He had to leap to try to make that play, and it looks like it's going to be an infield single for Joey Weimer.
And there's one of those classic Joey Weimer, just hit the ball as hard as you can and let the defense figure it out later as he chops that. They're going to rule that an error.
What is the scoring in this game, honestly? You got Chris Lanzilli, the ground ball at first earlier in the ball game, which was clearly an error, but they want to give him a base hit on that. Now you're going to, I guess, keep the no-hitter in line because you're going to call that one an error. I think that's absolutely ludicrous, but regardless, the leadoff man's on base, and the tying run is on first here in the 5th inning with Nico Cavadas at the plate for the Mariners. As the first pitch misses low and inside.
I mean, with the speed of Joey Weimer, you got to think even if that ball was cleanly played at third base by Riley King, it was going to be awfully close at first. So probably should have been ruled a hit, but they will give him an error, and that will, one way or another, put us fast runner on base for Harwich with nobody out and an opportunity to maybe move him up and find a way to tie this ball game.
Fastball misses outside. Yeah, I mean, I think the only person that you could rule an error on that ball is Manu Bull, considering how high that ball was chopped in the air. The typical Joey Weimer chopper that just was a little too high to handle for King, but they're going to give him an error regardless. Leadoff man on for the Mariners, and all of a sudden a 3-0 count now to the dangerous Nico Cavadas.
Yep, with Christian Fetko standing on deck, who ripped one his first time up, but unfortunately it was right at the shortstop. So we'll see with the 3-0 count whether or not Cavadas can find his way on base. His on-base percentage this postseason has been good, despite the fact that he has not had a single hit.
And the 3-0 misses inside for ball 4, so back-to-back base runners for the Mariners to kick off the top of the 5th.
And you talk about the scoring a little bit. That's just fuel for a Harwich team that, again, has not really been in this game mentally 100%, but they're getting into it a little bit here. You saw Christian Fetko with the donut on his bat. He slams it to the ground. He's in there, and he's ready to go. This is a Harwich team that's playing a little angry right now, and with good reason. So, you know, this could be the kind of turnaround inning that the Nerds need.
So here's Christian Fetko, one of the better hitters against Southpaws this season for the Mariners, and he's got a great opportunity to knot things up with a simple base hit with the speed of Joey Weimer on second and Nico Cavadas on first. Pitch from Beller, he's showing bunt, and it's going to miss low and outside for a ball.
And now Beller's having to do something he hasn't done all game long, and that's pitch out of the stretch, with the exception of the one hitter in the 4th inning. So this is going to prompt a meeting at the mound. Pitching coach coming out here for YD, as does Noah Cardenas, and they clearly want to have a conversation with their hurler.
So as the mound visit takes place, currently no action still in the Mariners bullpen, as despite Seymour having a couple of rough innings, he's been able to work his way out of those innings. So despite putting guys on base, giving up a plethora of hits so far, 4 hits in just 2 innings, he's been able to work his way out of it and give Harwich an opportunity to stay in this ball game.
And now the offense just has to come through and do their part again. Still trailing by just 1 run. This is the ideal scenario. Runner on second and first. Nobody out. Middle of the lineup coming up here. Fetko, Winkle, Acton, Hughes. You got to find a way to scratch one across here. You don't know how many more opportunities like this you're going to see.
Red Sox infield looking to turn 2. Fetko shows bunt again. This time Beller drops in a breaking ball for a strike.
Yeah, not the typical pitch there for John Beller, but that's what he goes with. The count goes 1-1 here on Christian Fetko. Is going to have to be awfully defensive here. Again, Fetko due for a really big game here today. See whether or not he comes through in the clutch.
Couple of lefties following Fetko, so this could be a really big at-bat in this ball game. As Fetko shows bunt once again, here comes the pitch, and he pulls back as Beller's starting to struggle to find the strike zone, 2-1.
Yeah, Beller doesn't look as locked in as he did. Obviously, anytime you go through the first 12 hitters without giving up a single hit, you're not going to be very concerned. You're going to shake everything off. But after the walk and the error, now he's got 2 guys on. He's thinking about Fetko, and he's maybe thinking a little bit too much for his own good here, as we'll see if Christian squares around to bunt again with a 2-1 count.
Yeager holding Weimer on at second, the 2-1. There's the bunt. Beller will come fielded. He turns, fires onto first, and it gets away from Samuelson. Here comes the run, and this game is tied. I think that one might have been an error as Joey Weimer comes across to tie the ball game 1-1.
And a huge play, a beautiful bunt there by Christian Fetko. And you can just see the second Beller got his hand on it, he did not look comfortable. He makes the throw, it's awkward and a little bit low, and Tate Samuelson over at first is worried about Winkle, or sorry, not Winkle, he's worried about Fetko streaking down the line, so he can't get his glove on it. But again, we talk about all the opportunities that have been left at the table by YD, and just like that, it's a tie ball game.
I'm assuming they're going to give a fielding error on that one for Tate Samuelson as that ball was throwing. That throw looked like it was in time for the out, but he couldn't handle it. Ball got away, and Weimer aggressively takes home. So now 2 on once again, first and second with nobody. And now Pat Winkle's going to show bunt, and he lays one down the third baseline. It's a beautiful one. It's going to roll fair. Winkle legging out. He's safe. A bunt single for Pat Winkle, and the bases are loaded with nobody out.
And this is Harwich, classic Harwich. I talked about it. They were ticked, and you could tell they were ticked. They came in here. They know that they don't look very comfortable fielding the bunt. They know that they have the speed, and they're just going to lay a few down here. They're not going to stoop to Whitey's level and play their game. They're going to come in here and play their game. And I'll tell you what, this dugout is fired up. This crowd is fired up, and this team is about to explode. The 5th inning is a powder keg. Let's see whether or not Harwich can light it up.
Cavadas on third, Christian Fedko on second, and Pat Winkle on first with the first hit of the ball game for the Harwich Mariners. The lone run given up so far from Beller unearned, and he'll look to try to get a big out with Corey Acton at the plate. He steps off before throwing the first pitch.
And what have we seen? Corey Acton, since being quote-unquote activated, has been killing baseballs left and right. He could break this thing open with one swing of the bat, even if he doesn't put it over the fence. All it needs is one good ball in the gap, and the M's could lead by 3.
Swing and a miss. He really looked to destroy that baseball, but he's way out in front of it for a strike. Acton hit .357 on the season against left-handed pitching with a home run. That was his first home run of the season coming against the Orleans Firebirds in just his second game. Beller from the stretch, the 0-1. That one's over for strike 2.
And again, Corey Acton, at the end of the year, the last 13 regular season games, 10 for 20, 8 runs, 6 RBIs, and 2 long balls. He's got the capability, although he does not have a hit so far in the postseason.
What a time it would be for hit number 1. Beller comes set. Now the 0-2 is a fastball up and away, a good take.
And again, nobody out. The base is loaded for the Harwich Mariners, and they just need one more run to take the lead. Got to think they have a lot of faith in their bullpen. They haven't needed big leads this year. A 1-0 win over Chatham. Several 1-0 wins over other teams this year, including Falmouth Commodores and Katuitt Kettleers, who are both still in it.
1-2 is a slow roller up the first base line, but it will make its way foul.
And look at the speed that Harwich has on the base paths, too, with Christian Fetko at second. It doesn't have to be a ball hit all that hard. They may send him. Fetko has been thrown out a number of times this year, but he's certainly capable if they can put something down and give an opportunity to wave the speedster from UConn around to score.
1 ball, 2 strikes to the Florida Gator. Beller with the pitch. Swing and a miss, strike 3. Got him with a breaking ball just below the knees, and there's a big out number 1 for the YD Red Sox.
And the one thing you can't do is not get one more run here in the inning. Even if you just get one, even if Cavadas comes across to score, you have to make sure you get at least that, because again, it's a YD team that's not going to stay at 1 run forever, you get the feeling, and if you get an opportunity to jump up on them, you have to take that right now. So the infield will go to double play depth, trying to find a way to end this inning with Hal Hughes coming to the plate. He's 0 for 1 today with a strikeout.
And this is a great guy for the Mariners to have at the plate, the way that Hughes has been swinging a bat, not just in the postseason, but against YD all season long, hitting .333 against the Red Sox. And he swings the first pitch, it's down the left field line, and it will hook just foul. Boy, that one would have played at least 2 runs, but it is foul by about, I want to say about 1.5 feet. I think that was the right call over at third base.
Yeah, they definitely got that call right, as that one was hooking, and that was kind of the unfortunate part, the wind blowing. You can see the flag at half-mast out there in center field. It's blowing out that way, so on a still day, maybe that ball stays in, but with just a little bit of help, Hal Hughes will head back to the batter's box with an 0-1 count.
So Hughes will look for another pitch like that one, try to straighten things out. Wells playing pretty far off that left field line. As the infield is at double play depth, they can get a hard hit ground ball. They might be able to get out of the inning on this play. 0-1 count. Beller quickly coming to the set. And he pitches the 0-1. It's in the dirt. A nice stop by Cardenas that definitely could have saved a run despite the slow-footed Nico Cavadas at third base.
Yep, and Cardenas, of course, is going to be called upon a couple of times here with the chain link backstop. Everything's going to be stopped back there, so the UCLA product out there in his UCLA catching gear. Trying to hold off another run here for Harwich.
Here's the 1-1. There's a fly ball out towards center field. Beasley's back. He'll make the catch. Cavadas tagging up. He will score, and the Harwich Mariners have taken a 2-1 lead.
And that's all it takes. What do we say? Manufacturing runs is something the Mariners have done such a good job of this year. And, you know, it doesn't have to be a hard hit ball in the gap. A sac fly will do it, and the M's lead 2-1.
Number 4, Dylan Noisy.
So here's Dylan Noisy with runners at first and second and 2 down in the inning. A base hit still played an all-important insurance run for the Mariners, considering how well YD has swung the bat in this game, but just haven't been able to get the runs at least yet. Beller's first pitch is in there at the knees for a called strike.
And Noisy, of course, was 4 for 6 coming into this game in the postseason. He's looked really good throughout the course of the last few weeks, and a guy who could certainly come through for the Mariners here with Chris Gallen standing on deck.
Fedko at second, Winkle at first. A 2-1 lead for the Mariners here in Game 1 of the Eastern Divisional Playoff Series. And there's a big swing by Noisy. He can't make contact, and he's behind 0-2.
Yep, a championship series here is, again, a ticket to the finale on the line with either Catuit or Falmouth. That Game 1 is set to start at 6 p.m. tonight.
Game 2 will take place at White House Field. Game 3, if necessary, will be right back here at Red Wilson Field. Scheduled for tomorrow and Wednesday, respectively. The 0-2. Breaking ball comes in and almost clips the back foot of Noisy, but it's just going to miss inside for ball 1. Noisy a couple of pop-outs to first, as he will look to recapture the magic he had a couple of days ago in the series-clinching game against Chatham. Beller's 1-2. Fastball up and away.
Yep, Beller looking to get out of this inning with less damage done than what was possible. Again, the Mariners had the bases loaded, nobody out. A strikeout from Acton and a sac fly from Hal Hughes have put them where they are now. Runners at first and second, a 2-2 count, and Dylan Noisy at the plate.
Here comes the 2-2. Chopper towards short, Yeager charging, throws on the run, it's low, and he's safe. And caught between third and home is Fedko. Running him back is Cardenas. The throw back to third, the tag, and he is out. So despite an infield single from Dylan Noisy, Christian Fedko is caught between third and home, and that will end the inning. But not before the Harwich Mariners score a couple of times to take a 2-1 lead. We're halfway through this one. You're listening to the Harwich Mariners Radio Network. Bottom of the fifth from Red Wilson Field, 2-1. Harwich Mariners leading Game 1 of this 3-game series between them and the YD Red Sox. And Tyler, what an eventful top of the fifth inning that was.
I mean, you had everything you could have asked for. There were close plays, there were tough plays, there were manufactured runs. And a couple of really controversial one really controversial error call over at first, but at the end of the day, Harwich scratches 2 runs across, and that number is the only thing that matters because despite YD out hitting them 7-2, despite YD having 8 different guys in scoring position in this game, they are currently losing 1-2.
And Carson Seymour, if he's able to continue this strong outing, would put himself in line for his first victory on the season. But easier said than done against a very tough YD Red Sox lineup. And here's one of their better hitters in Noah Campbell. He is 0 for 2 with an RBI. Campbell out of South Carolina awaits the first pitch from Seymour. And it's an inside-out swing down the left field line, and it will land foul out by the bullpen mound.
Yeah, pretty sizable rest there for Carson Seymour, but he gets back out there and looks to get back at it as he had a really good start to the 4th inning with a strikeout and the ground out, then let the bases get loaded before having Tate Samuelson fly out to straightaway center to end it.
The 0-1 to Campbell is a fastball that misses up and away.
Of course, the only other game going on at 6 o'clock tonight will be between the Falmouth Commodores and Kituitt Kettleers. That game at Falmouth.
As the 1-1 misses inside, and obviously not to get ahead of ourselves as we still got a 3-game series here, but if the Mariners were to make it to that championship, they're 3-1 against both of those teams on the season. Or actually, as that pitch is fouled off there, 3-1 against Kituitt and 2-2 against Falmouth. But Harwich is able to win both their games at home against both teams.
And once again, they would be the road team for Game 1, regardless of which one of those two teams comes out. As Kituitt finished their year 20-20-4. Actually, I'm not sure how they do that.
Yeah, as that pitch is a called strike 3 on Campbell for out number 1, but that's what I was thinking. They both have the same amount of points. Now, Kituitt is the 3 seed in their respective division, but I'm not sure that should really matter in a tie-breaking scenario such as that.
I mean, if it comes down to it, Harwich has more wins. They have the head-to-head with a 3-1 record against the Kettleers this year, and you would think one of those two things would be what it comes down to. They also have a better run differential, I believe, on the season than the Kettleers.
We'll cross that bridge if we get to it, as breaking ball is in there for strike 1 to Carson Taylor, who is 1 for 2.
That would, of course, also assume not only that Harwich gets out of this series, but that Kituitt gets out of their series with the Commodores. If Falmouth wins, well, it's of little to no consequence, as the Commodores have the best record in the CCBL this year.
1-1 the count, and that was fueled by a late-season surge in which they went on an 11-game winning streak, the longest one since 2002. 1-1 to Taylor, breaking ball that misses high.
I think it's also worth noting that while YD ended their year 3-6-1, 2 of those losses came against the Highness Harbor Hawks at the tail end of the year, the last 2 games of the regular season for YD. But they've looked much better in the postseason.
2-1 is on the outside corner for strike 2 to Carson Taylor, who has a couple of home runs in the regular season, one against Harwich. That was off of Antonio Menendez. You'll look for another here as the 2-2 is a chopper right towards the mound. Seymour bare hands it. The throw on to first is in time for out number 2.
Yep, and that's how you field what's essentially just a bunt as that ball drops down. But Seymour very collectively picks it up, turns, and makes sure he fires as he kind of jumps almost with his feet to put himself in a position to make the throw.
So that'll bring up the 0 for 2 Noah Cardenas out of UCLA, as he is been one of the big bats in this season series between these two teams. He's got 3 RBIs. And the first pitch to him is breaking ball at the knees as Seymour really in control this inning compared to his first 2.
I mean, same start to the inning as he got the strikeout and the ground out. Same as back in the 4th inning. We'll see whether or not he can put away Noah Cardenas here.
The 0-1 is swung at as that one was in the dirt, and Cardenas chases after it for strike 2.
Yeah, I think too. I mean, Seymour didn't really have the opportunity to go through his typical pregame regimen as he comes in out of the bullpen. So, didn't know exactly when he'd be coming into this game, but he's looked settled in over the course of the last few innings and looked really composed getting that final out in the 4th.
This against a very talented YD lineup. The 0-2. Breaking ball lined and into left field for a base hit. So once again, YD trying to spark a 2-out rally, and Noah Cardenas is on with his first hit of the contest.
And they've now had at least 1 hit in every single inning of this game. They've had base runners aboard left and right, and We'll see whether or not they continue here, as Andrew Eister is 0 for 2 with a pair of strikeouts comes to the plate. So far, Eister is the only guy to not reach base in this game.
He is also the only guy in this lineup to not have an RBI in the season, and turns out he's not going to be batting as Jack Thomas Wald's going to get an opportunity. The left-handed hitter will pinch hit, and we'll see if he will stay in the ball game in right field after that, but Eister's afternoon is done. So Pickler already going to the pinch hitters here with 2 away in the bottom of the 5th. First pitch, breaking ball on the outside corner.
Of course, Jack Thomas Wald, infamous for hitting the 3-run go-ahead home run off Joe Boyle that allowed YD to get a victory here at Red Wilson Field earlier this year over the M's, so maybe playing the matchup a little bit here as well.
The 0-1 is line drive towards short. It gets through the legs of Hal Hughes. That's going to get into the outfield. Cardenas stumbles on second. He's going to head into third. The throw is cut off, and all of a sudden, once again, the YD Red Sox have runners at the corners with 2 away.
I just saw something that I have not seen all season long. Hal Hughes made a mistake at shortstop. It's not really on him. That's a tough play, but wow, I didn't think we would see that at any point this year. He has been the best, and he is still the best defensive shortstop in the CCBL. I will fight anybody on that point any day of the week. But a rare miscue from Hal Hughes, and that's going to put runners at the corners once again, Colin, with 2 away. There is a runner 90 feet away for the YD Red Sox, and it represents the tying run in Noah Cardenas.
R.J. Yeager digs in, just the second error on the season by Hal Hughes. The 0-1's a roller towards third. Cavadas fields it cleanly. The strong throw, and once again, the Harwich Mariners get out of the inning, despite YD stranding 2 guys on base. That total now to 11 men left on base in the first 5 innings of this ball game, and that will retire the side. So the Mariners, despite being out-hit 8-2, lead this ball game 2-1. You are listening to the playoff baseball on the Harwich Mariners Radio Network. Top of the 6th inning from Red Wilson Field. John Beller will head out for a 6th inning of work for the YD Red Sox, and a couple of defensive changes to report. Tate Samuelson moves to right field to replace Andrew Eister, with Jack Thomas Wald, the pinch hitter, moving over to first base in this one. So they're going to keep Wald's bat in the lineup, as he was able to reach base on an error last inning, but was stranded on first to end that inning, and now it will be up to John Beller to keep this deficit at just 1.
He's got to be upset. I mean, he hasn't been getting a whole lot of help today. He's done his part, but again, Harwich has put themselves in a perfect position. They've been out hit 8-2. YD's had 9 runners in scoring position, yet the Mariners are on top 2-1 here in the 6th.
So in steps Chris Galland, who is 0 for 1 with a strikeout and a walk. He was caught stealing to end that 4th inning on a play, and looked like he certainly beat the tag over at second. First pitch from John Beller is going to miss outside.
And we'll see whether or not Harwich can find a way to get a couple of insurance runs here, as they could certainly use a few. Not a lot of leads are going to feel safe against an offense as potent as what YD's has been this season.
1-0 is big cut from Gallen, but can't make contact on Beller. That's a swinging strike. There's some stirring going on in the YD Red Sox bullpen, but I don't think anyone has really started to throw just yet. And as I say that, it looks like a bullpen catcher making his way over to home plate over there, as 1-1's on the outside corner.
And that's exactly what Harwich wants. They've done a pretty good job this year against the YD bullpen, a bullpen that's given up runs left and right. Again, the big Achilles heel of this team had been the relief pitching throughout the course of the 2019 campaign.
Here comes the 1-2. And there's a high fly ball out towards left center field. That ball hanging up there. And Brad Beasley comes over and tracks the ball down out in left center for out number 1.
So once again, recap how Harwich scored their runs back in the 5th. It was Joey Weimer who reached on a quote-unquote error, then a Nico Cavadas walk, then a Christian Fedko reach on an error that scored a run, and then a Pat Winkle bunt single, followed by a Corey Acton strikeout and Hal Hughes sac fly. I mean, this is the exact way Harwich has been scoring runs this postseason, and you know what? It seems to work for him.
Chris Lanzilli digs in. He's struck out and popped out, and he sends a fly ball off to the right, heading towards the snack shack out of play. As people take cover.
Again, Chris Lanzilli had his fair share of success this year against the YD Red Sox. 7 for 19 with 6 RBIs.
He taps one foul, so he falls behind 0-2. That's actually the 3rd time he's had 2 strikes on him this afternoon. So good job by Beller to get ahead of Chris Lanzilli, but he's really been doing it against the entire lineup. Just last inning, a couple of mistakes, a couple of errors, and a couple of runs came home. The 0-2 is waved at and missed for strike 3, so John Beller able to bounce back and pick up strikeout number 8 for the 2nd out at the top of the 6th.
Yep, and the struggles continue for Chris Lanzilli at the plate throughout the course of the postseason. Here comes Joey Weimer, who got things started with well, it was basically a single, but it was ruled an error back in the 5th inning, and we'll see whether or not he can get Harwich started again here with 2 away.
Yep, Weimer came across to score that first run on a fielding error at first from Tate Samuelson, who is now moved out to right field. First pitch to Weimer dips below the zone for ball 1. Beller working from the windup. And his 1-0 is hit on the ground towards short. Yeager fields it. Takes his time throwing, and Weimer's going to beat it out. The throw is wild anyways, and it'll be interesting to see how they rule this one, but Weimer reaches base.
Not really sure what the idea was there at short, as again, you mentioned Yeager took a lot of time to get that throw off. He had Weimer dead to rights, even with his speed, but...
So a guy taking his time over at shortstop and then making a bad throw is a base hit, but a ball where a guy has to jump for it and knock the ball down to keep it out of the outfield is an error.
Well, Colin, there's no no-hitter to protect this time.
That's right. So it's going to be a 2-out single for Joey Weimer, maybe a makeup call as the throw over to Jack Thomas Wall to keep Weimer at bay.
Yep, and again, with Nico Cavadas up at the dish and Christian Fedko standing on deck, a good spot for Harwich. 2 away here. If they can push the runner into scoring position, we know what kind of speed Weimer has. See what they can do.
First ball's in the dirt. Cardenas can't find it, and Weimer's going to take off for second. Good aggressive base running by Weimer. We saw it earlier when he scored from second on the error, and this time he's in scoring position with 2 away here in the 6th.
And that thing didn't get far enough away from Cardenas that it was really a big-time move, but Cardenas couldn't locate the ball, and Weimer noticed that, just took off with no hesitation and got his way down to second. So another runner in scoring position here. Harwich looking for a way to bring him across and give themselves a 2-run lead here in the 6th.
The 1-0 to Nico Cavadas is swung on and missed for strike 1. Cavadas led the team with 30 RBIs in the regular season, but still looking for that first one of the postseason. We've known he's had a bit of trouble against left-handed pitching, but a base hit here would certainly go a long way. Weimer takes his lead off second, the 1-1. That fastball is in for strike 2. Cavadas, of course, owns the other run of the ball game for Harwich as he scored on a Hal Hughes sacrifice fly to center. Beller looks in, gets the sign he's looking for. The 1-2. Fastball just misses outside, much to the chagrin of the YD dugout, and the inning will continue 2-2. Christian Fedko waits in the on-deck circle. Harwich just 3 hits, but they lead in the more important column in terms of runs 2-1. The 2-2. Ground ball to first. It's off the glove of Wald. He has trouble with the ball, gets away. Weimer's going to hold up at third, and the shouty defense from the YD Red Sox continues here in the 6th.
Yeah, no one really looks sure of what to do. Again, that ball hit a wall that was pretty easy for him to play, but it just kind of popped in and out of his mitt as it rolled around the interior, and then he tried to glove it. At the same time, you had a guy not expecting to have to come and John Beller and make a play at first base, and so he wasn't going to be there in time if there was a throw, and they'd have to eat it and put runners at the corners here for Harwich.
You have to wonder if maybe Tate Samuelson, a more sure-handed first baseman, might have been able to make that play and prevent that all-important base runner to reach base and continue the inning. But instead, Christian Fedko will get an opportunity. He is 0 for 2, but he reached base on an error his last time up. Big insurance run and Joey Weimer on third base, Cavadas at first. And the first pitch from Beller. A check swing, did he go? The appeal down to first, and yes, he did, says Joe LaBella, the first base umpire. It's strike one. Fedko out of the University of Connecticut. His UConn teammate Pat Winkle standing in the on-deck circle. Fedko certainly has had his ups and downs this season, both at the plate and in the field. The 0-1. Fastball waved at as Fedko decided really late to swing at that ball as it got past him, and he's behind the 8 ball here, 0-2.
Yeah, but of course Christian Fedko looking to bounce out as his brother eliminated from playoff contention with the Bourne Braves a few days back. Falmouth Commodores able to come back and get the victory in that one. Right now, Christian trying to continue and help his team play on here in Game 1 of the championship series.
The 0-2 is chased, a high pop-up, shallow center. Campbell looking for it. Now Yeager comes over and makes a catch in what would have been a disastrous turn of events if that ball dropped as Fedko slams his helmet in frustration, and the Mariners leave 2 men on base without adding an important insurance run. But they still lead it 2-1 after 5.5 innings. You're listening to the Harwich Mariners Radio Network. Bottom of the 6th inning, Colin Casey alongside Tyler Henry here at Red Wilson Field as the Mariners hang on to a 2-1 lead in Game 1 of the Cape Cod Baseball League Eastern Division Championship Series. As winner of this will head on to the championship to take on either Falmouth or Catuit, and Carson Seymour pitching with a 2-1 lead, looking for that first victory of the season after going 0-3 in the regular season.
Yeah, and this is a really big Game 1 because, again, if they can steal this one, go back to White House Field needing just one more win, that's a big setup because, again, a potential Game 3 would be played here at YD. So you want to jump on this team when you can, and so far Harwich is leading at 2-1. Now they'll have to do the harder part and keep the runs off the board.
Mariners taking advantage of 3 errors committed by YD defense through 5.5 innings. So here's Brad Beasley, who has reached base in all 3 of his plate appearances, and including a single in his last at-bat. And first pitch misses low and outside. He holds the only run scored in this game by the Red Sox. Seymour working from the windup, and the 1-0 is hit on the ground to third. Cavadas has it, and the throw is in time, so speedy Brad Beasley retired for out number 1 of the bottom of the 6th.
Yeah, looking at the Harwich offense and just kind of looking up and down this order, a lot of guys have just not been participating in the offensive activities so far this summer, or not this summer, but throughout the course of this playoff series, and that's going to have to turn around and change. You got guys like Dylan Noisy who have been getting it done. Joey Weimer's kind of done his part when he can, and Hal Hughes certainly has with the RBI today that gave Harwich a 1-run lead, but everybody else has been awfully quiet.
First pitch fastball to Riley King misses low and outside, and That's certainly reflected in the first 4 innings of this ball game, where Harwich only put 1 base runner on, and he was quickly dispatched over at second base as the 1-0 is swung on and missed for strike 1.
I mean, Chris Lanzilli, Corey Acton, Chris Galland, Christian Fetko, and Nico Cavadas are a combined 1 for 41 in the postseason so far, as this one misses inside. Now, for Cavadas, that's not entirely his fault, as he's reached 5 different times via either a walk or a hit by pitch. But for everybody else, I mean, it's just been a very slow start to the postseason, and the pitching has really picked up this Harwich team, as it has all season.
That fastball misses low 3-1, and you don't want to turn into a team like the Chatham Anglers where you solely rely on pitching to carry you so far. You need to have that offense along with it, and that's what really did in Chatham in that previous playoff series, only able to score 2 runs in 2 games, as the 3-1 misses upstairs for ball 4, and it's a 1-out walk for Riley King, and the YD Red Sox still looking to finally take advantage and perhaps tie this ball game.
And there it is again, another base runner here, as Whitey has had somebody on base in all 6 innings that they've played. They've had a runner in scoring position in all 6 innings that they've played. And yet again, they've only scored 1 run. If Harwich comes out with a victory today, you get the feeling YDE is going to really struggle to find their footing tomorrow.
So in steps the heart of the lineup in Austin Wells. So he'll be followed by Tate Samuelson and Noah Campbell, but Wells so far today has reached base twice, including a single. He rips this ball out towards center field, but right at Dylan Noisy once again. For the second time in this game, Wells hits a ball hard right at Noisy and has nothing to show for it. 2 down.
Yep, he got a hold of it, but again, just right at the guy in center, and Harwich puts him away for out number 2. So things are a little bit lighter here as Tate Samuelson comes to the plate for a 4th time, but he's already reached on 2 singles today.
Samuelson was the out-recorded at second base on the fielder's choice that scored the lone run for YD way back in the first inning. As the first pitch breaking ball misses from Carson Seymour.
The weird thing with a lot of these guys going quiet in the Harwich lineup is it's guys that had really been picking it up at the back end of the season, especially Chris Lanzilli and Corey Acton, 2 of the best hitters throughout the course of the last 2 weeks for Harwich. But come playoff time, it's gone quiet again. But they're in the field right now trying to prevent more runs from coming across here for YD.
King takes off at first, a swing and a high pop-up towards the right side. It's going to fall for a base hit. King is into third. They're going to hold him. And guess what, Tyler? First and third with 2 away once again for the YD Red Sox.
And I'll tell you exactly what happened on that play, because that's traditionally an easy out for Corey Acton, but he's sprinting over to second base to cover the bag on the stolen base. That takes him out of the play, and there's no way even a guy as fast as Joey Weimer's coming in to make that catch. So Acton has to turn around, fire the 360, and try to get there in time. As you mentioned, Colin, once again, first and third, tying run on third base for YD, 2 away. They haven't done it so far 5 different times. Is this finally the one that breaks the well open for the YD Red Sox?
So here's Noah Campbell, responsible for the lone RBI so far for the YD Red Sox. First pitch, fastball, misses outside.
I mean, again, if you're YD, if you don't cash in here, and if you come away with a loss today, you're shaking your head wondering what happened, because you had so many opportunities, and Harwich just found ways to kind of wiggle out of it at the last second every time.
11 men left on base so far, as the 1-0 is on the inside corner.
And you wonder if once again we'll see Tate Samuelson try to run down to second and swipe that bag to put 2 guys in scoring position again. There's a sign being given by the third base coach for YD into Noah Campbell. Wonder whether or not he'll be taking to allow his runner to take second.
1-1 is hit on the ground up the middle. Hughes fields it, tags second, and once again the Mariners get out of the jam. First and third, and YD can't take advantage of it. They have now stranded 13 men on base in just 6 innings of play. We head to the 7th, 2-1. The Harwich Mariners lead over the YD Red Sox in Game 1 of the Eastern Division Championship Series of the CCBL playoffs. You're listening right here on the Harwich Mariners Radio Network. And welcome back to Red Wilson Field. Colin Casey alongside Tyler Henry. New pitcher to tell you about for the YD Red Sox. But first, quick reminder that this game is brought to you in part by Curry College. Curry College offers 14 NCAA Division III athletic teams in sports such as football, baseball, softball, basketball, hockey, soccer, lacrosse, tennis, cross country, and volleyball. Read about the success of the Curry Colonels and their championship teams. It's all online at www.curry.edu.
So as John Beller comes out of the game, he's got to be frustrated because he pitched exceptionally well. 6 innings, he had 8 strikeouts, only 2 walks, gave up just 1 earned run, 2 runs total, and had the 3 hits. But at the end of the day, Harwich still leads it 2-1, and they will now turn it over to a guy who's had his fair share of success against the Harwich Mariners this year, and Jacob Winger.
Yeah, Winger pitched a clean 8th and 9th inning against Harwich in that 4-4 tie to at least get a point out of the game for the YD Red Sox at the time.
He is one of 4 guys on this team, including McCarthy, Carvajal, and Brady Corrigan, to not give up a run to the Mariners this year. First pitch is on its way, and that'll be in there for strike 1 to Pat Winkle.
Final line on John Beller. He goes 6 innings, surrendering 2 runs, both unearned on 3 hits, walked 2, and struck out 8 batters.
Winger's next pitch, that is going to be solidly contacted with, sent on the left center field, and chasing it all the way back to the wall, looking up, it's gone! Didn't think that one was going to have a chance to get out as Austin Wells and Brad Beasley converge down the left side, but that ball just sneaks over the wall, and it's going to be a solo shot for Pat Winkle, his 2nd of the year, and the Mariners have a much-needed insurance run. They lead 3-1.
2nd of the year for Winkle, the 2nd one right here at Red Wilson Field. Something about this ballpark as he just put a good opposite field swing on that ball out towards left center field. And yeah, as you mentioned, that ball was hit very high in the air. I was surprised it had enough carry, but it just snuck over the left center field fence, and there's a big insurance run for the Harwich Mariners.
And with that high fence, there's no play to be made as you can't just jump up and try to bring it back into the ballpark unless you're 6'8". Big swing and a miss taken by Corey Acton as he pulls the string at the first pitch he sees. And, well, I just mentioned that Jacob Winger hadn't given up a run against Harwich all year. That's been dashed with a couple of pitches. So see whether or not the Mariners can add a few more on as they now hold a 2-run lead. Here comes the 0-1. Another big swing and a miss by Corey Acton, who is 0 for 2 with a pair of strikeouts today. So far this postseason, just 1 for 9 with 5 strikeouts. So he did have the crucial hit in Game 2 against Chatham, a game the Harwich would go on to win by a score of 4-2. But here he's fallen behind Winger, and he will check this one back into the glove of Noah Cardenas. It actually hits the ground first. The count stays 0-2 here on Corey Acton.
Yeah, both RBIs are both RBIs so far as the 3rd run coming in on an error, so no RBI there. But both the recorded RBIs for the Mariners in this ball game coming from the bottom of the order, as Hal Hughes had the sac fly in just a moment ago, the solo shot for Pat Winkle.
Right now, Winger trying to get out of some trouble. The big righty kicks and deals the 0-2. That'll miss up and away for ball 1. So a 1-2 count on Corey Acton. Let's take a look at Jacob Winger out of High Point University. Last year, sophomore season, a 3.81 ERA through 28 innings, 33 strikeouts, 7 walks. 1-2 misses low and inside. Dodging out of the way is Acton, and the count goes 2-2 here on the lefty from Florida.
And that solo shot from Winkle must hurt even more for YD. I mean, they've done everything but bring home runs in this game at the plate, and just one swing, and it's an easy run for the Mariners.
Another ball fouled away here by Corey Acton, who stays alive. Yeah, I mean, even if you just bring home the guys that were on 3rd base, that would account for 5 YD runs. But Harwich pitchers have really just tightened up when that situation has come around. And, you know, to their credit, they've gotten out of it with just 1 run given up this entire game. Winger's 2-2. That one's going to be taken down the right field line and foul by Corey Acton. So once again, going deep into a pitcher's pitch count here is Corey Acton.
Another big issue with the YD Red Sox is a lot of these rallies they've been starting have come with 2 outs. So you're putting guys on 1st and 3rd with 2 away, but if you do it with nobody out or 1 away, it'd be a lot easier.
Acton will take this one up the left side. It gets through. That's into the 5-hole for a single. Corey Acton takes a wide turn at first. He will turn around and head back, and the Mariners are still cooking here with nobody out, a runner on first, a 2-run lead, and Hal Hughes coming to the plate.
And another opposite field swing against Winger as he's been trying to keep the ball away, and each of these at-bats, and it just hasn't been working. The Mariners have been going the other way with it against him, and a couple of hits to lead off the 7th for the Mariners against Jacob Winger. Certainly hasn't been his day so far.
Taking a look at the numbers so far this season, the Harwich Mariners pitching staff is allowing an opposing batting average of just 191 with runners in scoring position and 2 out. As the first pitch to Hughes misses low and away for ball 1.
Yeah, and big time credit to Carson Seymour, who has found himself in a lot of these tough 2-out situations, but he has just managed to get the contact that he's needed in pretty much every single one of them.
Here comes the 1-0, once again squaring to bunt and pulling it back for ball 2 there is Hal Hughes. So Harwich may not be done playing small ball here, as that worked to their credit back in the 5th inning. They were able to rally for 2 runs and take the lead back from YD late.
They actually went with back-to-back bunts with Fedko reaching on the air and then a bunt single for Pat Winkle.
So we'll see whether or not they stick to that philosophy. Hal Hughes standing in with a 2-0 count. He'll square around, infield corners coming in. And he'll pull it back. Once again, Winger misses, and well, that's the thing you really don't want to do if you're Jacob Winger right now. That's put the runners at first and second, nobody out for Dylan Noisy.
And we already got action once again in the bullpen for YD, as it could be a short leash for Jacob Winger.
Winger's looked pretty good so far this year, but he's looked shaky in this outing, as both guys, one hitting a home run and Pat Winkle, one getting a single in Corey Acton. Squaring to bunt once again, pulling it back once again, and finally taking strike 1 is Hal Hughes.
Yeah, it's Nolan McCarthy warming the pen, another guy who's seen Harwich a couple of times this season.
And another guy who I believe has not given up a run to the Mariners so far this year, although that trend has been bucked so far already with Jacob Winger giving up the solo shot. The 3-1 pitch. That'll miss inside. No, it's a late strike 2 call here, and the count will be worked full here on Hal Hughes.
Yeah, Hughes trying to get down to first before then, and home plate umpire not appreciative of it, so he calls him straight back.
And he'll have to do it again. 3 balls, 2 strikes, runner on first. Harwich leading it 3-1 here in the top half of the 7th. The pitch. And it's going to be a late strike 3 called. Hal Hughes can't believe it. And that'll be the first out of the inning.
Yeah, I mean, that one wasn't even close. I'm sorry. The first one looked borderline, the 3-1 pitch. That one looked like it was at least 3-4 inches off the plate, but Hughes is called out, and Harwich Mariners, or the YD Red Sox, rather, get a much-needed out number 1.
So here comes Dylan Noisy. Noisy, of course, one of the hotter bats coming into this game, and he was able to reach on an infield single back in the 5th inning. He was the last man to do so as Christian Fedko was called out in a rundown, and he'll swing through the first pitch and off speed for strike 1.
Yeah, you have to wonder how that inning might have turned out if Fedko was able to pump the brakes on third, and the inning would have kept going with Chris Gallen coming to the plate.
A lot of possibilities. Gallen stands on deck now. Here comes the 0-1, and that one will be fouled away back near the parking lot by Dylan Noisy. Of course, Noisy, once again, if you weren't with us earlier today, is wearing number 4, which had been previously held by Daniel Cabrera. He had everything all packed up and ready to go and loaded it onto the bus, but some compartment came loose, and, well, it's somewhere between here and Harwich. Hopefully they can find all of his stuff as the 0-2 is swung on and fouled away. For the time being, he's using a couple of new bats, somebody else's cleats, we're not sure whose, and his teammate Max Marshdock's glove.
And whether it be his equipment or somebody else's, it hasn't really mattered, as he's the only Harwich Mariner so far to have 3 hits in each game in the playoffs so far.
He has 1 hit today with the 2 flyouts. Here comes the 0-2. That'll miss high for a ball. And yeah, the only guy to have at least 1 hit in all 3 games so far throughout the postseason.
Hal Hughes the only one who's going to be at least able to continue that trend, as he and Noisy had all 4 hits in that 1-0 victory against Chatham.
1-2 pitch will miss high and inside, and that'll make it a 2-2 count. Yeah, those 2 sandwich the other 7 guys in the order, and it's been a hit or miss for everybody else in that lineup so far throughout the postseason. But again, the pitching has been so immaculate that at times it hasn't even mattered. Today's been one of those days as the Mariners lead 3-1. Here comes the 2-2 to Noisy. Runner going. That'll be fouled back to the screen. So it'll be Corey Acton turning around and heading back to first base.
Now, it'll be really interesting to see what the last 3 innings look like in terms of pitching for the Mariners, who they're going to go with. We know Will Heflin is well rested. You have to wonder if maybe Seymour gets the 7th, then Heflin will try to pick up those final 2 innings.
Yeah, you look at the guys who are available out of the bullpen for Harwich today. It's an interesting bunch, but you got to think Will Heflin would be the most likely guy to come in. Winger with a 2-2. That'll miss low in the dirt, and the count is full here as a long at-bat worked by Dylan Noisy. It's good to see him showing as much patience as what we've seen out of him today.
Yeah, a lot of aggression, and he kind of toned it back in that 5th inning at-bat, and it worked out. He was able to reach base, but earlier was a couple of pop-outs where he fell behind. This time he's working deep counts.
So the full count. Here comes the payoff pitch. Once again, he will foul it away. And once again, Corey Acton will be turning back as he's running suicide drills between first and second.
I like the call, though, because if Noisy is able to drop one into the outfield, that running start will easily get Corey Acton into scoring position at third base with just 1 away in the inning.
Still funny to think that the Mariners lead 3-1, as again, they've been out hit on the day 9-5, and Whitey has had double-digit guys in scoring position throughout this game. Payoff pitch, that'll miss high, and, well, there's another walk to Dylan Noisy, who reaches base for the 2nd time today, and Harwich, with 1 away in the inning, is not done scoring yet. Chris Gallen coming to the plate now.
Just an excellent job at the plate by Dylan Noisy, making Winger throw a ton of pitches, and eventually he just ran out of steam. Probably got really frustrated with all those foul balls and airmailed a fastball just above the strike zone, and now all of a sudden the threat not over here in the 7th inning for the Harwich Mariners.
And what do we talk about? This is a YD bullpen that's been prone to giving up runs in bunches this year, so Harwich looking to capitalize on that. First pitch to Gallant is going to be a called strike up and in. So Corey Acton stands on second, Dylan Noisy on first, 1 away in the inning. Jacob Winger fresh into the game here in his first inning of play, facing Chris Gallant, who today is 0 for 2 with a walk and a strikeout. Gallant ready for the pitch. Here comes the 0-1. Check swing. A check and appeal down to third, and Joe LaBella says he went. That was an awfully weak attempt there by Gallant, and didn't look like he popped his wrists.
Yeah, I mean, it was a close one. I mean, that pitch was actually really close to begin with, so I don't know. It looked like it could have easily been a called strike anyways, but home plate umpire said it missed, so he appealed, and Gallant's down now 0-2.
So with a 0-2 count, Jacob Winger looking to put away Chris Gallant. This is the first time he's faced Gallant today. Really long look in. He'll finally come to the belt. Checks the runner back to second and brings home the pitch. And that's an off speed that'll miss up and out for ball 2.
Yeah, it's a worst case scenario for Winger. You don't want to lose another batter after getting ahead 0-2. It seems like he's been ahead of a lot of these hitters since that Winkle home run, but hasn't gotten the results every single time.
Yet the bullpen gave up an insurance run, but it was starter John Beller who gave up the 2 runs earlier that allowed Harwich to jump out to a 2-1 lead. The Mariners have had to fight tooth and nail for everything that they've gotten today. It has not been an easy day at the plate for them, but nonetheless they lead it 3-1. And with a 1-2 count, Chris Gallant stands back in. Winger sets the pitch. That's going to be turned on and popped high in the air, drifting over into foul territory, the first baseman, and he will not make the, actually will make the catch, and the runner will tag and takes third. So that will allow Joey Weaver to move up to third base. I didn't know if that was going to stay in the field of play.
Yeah, huge heads-up play by Corey Acton over at second base. That ball kept carrying towards the fence, and Walt had to go a really long way. It would have been such a tough throw to make, as he had to make a running catch, and Acton able to tag up, and now the tables have turned. Harwich Mariners with runners at the corners and 2 away.
I'm not fully convinced that that was even the right move to make that catch. Obviously, you want to get the out, but it does allow another runner to move up 90 feet away, granted with 2 outs. So here comes Chris Lanzilli, looking to break out of what has been a dismal stretch at the plate for him here throughout the postseason, but still one of the most capable hitters in the Harwich lineup. Joey Weaver stands on deck, and we're going to have a meeting at the mound here. As Scott Pickler's coming out, this could be the end of the road for Jacob Winger.
And Pickler's going to look towards the bullpen, and no move made yet, but that might really be it, as it looks like Nolan McCarthy's going to head into the ball game.
We will see one way or the other. McCarthy is the one warming up, and now he will come in. So we'll step away. We'll have confirmation on the new pitcher on the other side of the break here on the Harwich Mariners YouTube network. Welcome back to Red Wilson Field. Tyler Henry, Colin Casey. New pitcher coming into the game is Nolan McCarthy, the junior out of Occidental College, a D3 school tucked away in Portland, Oregon. That's his hometown. And yeah, I mean, an interesting call here. But again, McCarthy has looked really good this summer. You talk about guys that come out of some of these smaller schools and have really good years. McCarthy is kind of the epitome of that.
Yeah, and he's getting thrown into a pretty difficult situation with runners at the corners and two away, a situation that Whitey's been all too familiar with at the plate. But this time, they're going to try to get out of the inning in this situation. But it's going to be a tall order with the heart of the lineup due up for the Harwich Mariners.
So far this year, Noel McCarthy has pitched 3 1/3, 2.7 ERA for him, 6 strikeouts to only 1 walk, and he has not yet surrendered a home run. Opponents are hitting .231 off of him so far, but again, a very small sample size for Nolan McCarthy. He will have to face off against Chris Lanzilli. Again, Lanzilli today is 0 for 3. First pitch to him. He is going to be in there for a called strike one. Pretty big lead by Dylan Noisy at first. Wouldn't be surprised if we see him swipe second and put another guy in scoring position here for Lanzilli, who, as I mentioned, is still looking for his first hit here in the postseason. But it could be a big one. Harwich leading at 3-1. There goes Noisy. Lanzilli swinging, sends that sharply into the crowd down the third base line. And again, just an interesting decision here at Wilson Field to have that open, uncovered section down the third base line, as there's no netting, no protection. You kind of sit there at your own risk.
Not even a fence.
Not even a fence, yeah. So either way, it'll be an 0-2 count here on Chris Lanzilli. Lanzilli's had his fair share of success against Whitey this year. Looking to continue that here with an 0-2 count. 2 away in the bottom or top of the 7th, and runners at the corners. The pitch. It's a pitch out, and they're going to catch the runner between second and third. They'll throw quickly down to third, not in time, and that's going to allow Noisy to move up to second. Dylan Noisy took a big secondary lead. Cardenas had an opportunity to try to backpick him. Instead, he elected to try to get the runner at third, and that's going to put 2 in scoring position for the Mariners here with a 1-2 count on Chris Lanzilli.
You know what? I agree with that decision from Cardenas, because you don't want to make a bad throw to second base and let at least 1 run score on a poor throw.
So nobody's holding the runner on. Noisy with a big lead. Anything that gets onto the outfield grass should plate 2. Lanzilli ready. McCarthy's 1-2 pitch. Breaking ball on the outside. Misses for ball 2, and the count goes even here at 2-2. Again, Chris Lanzilli, one of the hottest hitters throughout the last week of the Harwich season. Looking to put it all back together here in the postseason and give his team a bigger lead. Harwich up 3-1. McCarthy comes to the belt, the 2-2 pitch. That'll be fouled away. We'll do it again.
Yeah, another lengthy at-bat in the inning for Harwich. They've been making YD Red Sox pitchers throw a ton of pitches in pretty much every at-bat outside of the Pat Winkle home run.
This is a bullpen that has had its fair share of struggles this year. John Beller put together a pretty impressive start. Winger is still on the hook for both runners on base right now, with Lanzilli at the plate. But one more out would do it for YD. Here comes the pitch. And once again, it's going to be fouled off. This time it looks like off the left foot of Chris Lanzilli.
And Lanzilli out in front of a lot of these off-speed pitches from Nolan McCarthy. He rolls over on yet another one, but he's able to wait back a little bit more. He might be able to line one down that left field line, and that would easily score 2 runs.
The club of pitchers who have not allowed a run to Harwich Mariners hitters this year has shrunk from 3 to 2 with a solo shot off of Winger. McCarthy still finds himself in that club. 2-2. Taken to shortstop. It'll be picked up by Yeager. Throw on to first, and it can't be picked out. It gets past Wold. 1 run comes across to score, and it's going to be out of play. Everybody else gets a free base, and the Mariners are on top 4-1.
I mean, this has just been an embarrassing effort defensively all game long from the YD Red Sox. It's a routine throw from R.J. Yeager. Lanzilli's got decent speed coming down the line, but he fielded it cleanly, had plenty of time, and he just skips in a throw. Jack Thomas Wold unable to dig it out, and that brings home 2 runs with 2 away in the inning, which certainly hurts even more for YD considering how many times they've had chances to score with two down in the inning.
Yeah, again, because that was thrown out of play, because there's no fence down the first baseline, that ball's got nowhere to go, and that's going to plate Dylan Noisy and Corey Acton. So the M's are actually up 5-1 here. And you got to think, with the way their bullpen's been playing this year, this could be pretty darn close to a death sentence for the YD Red Sox. Here's a ball popped up high in the air. This will stay on the infield. Coming in from third base to make the catch is Riley King, and the inning is over, but not before the Harwich Mariners strike for 3 more runs. They lead it 5-1 here on the Harwich Mariners YouTube network. Welcome back to Red Wilson Field. Tyler Henry, Colin Casey, new pitcher coming into the game for the Harwich Mariners as they will try to put the icing on this cake. And Will Heflin checking in for the M's to replace Carson Seymour, who got the job done. He goes 4 innings, he gives up the 6 hits, but no runs come across to score. And he pairs 2 walks with 2 strikeouts. So Colin, you get the feeling with the guys available today, it'll probably be up to Heflin to try to close out these last 3 innings.
Yeah, and it'll be a great opportunity for him to pitch without a lot of stress. We've talked about some of the situations that Heflin has come in all season long. He's come in with a lot of adversity on his shoulders with guys in scoring position and nobody out in an inning or so. But bases empty, nobody out, fresh start to the inning, and a 4-run lead to go along with it.
Harwich struck for 3 back in the 7th. YD looking to get it back here. The YD Red Sox have still out-hit the Mariners 9-5, but Harwich has 5 runs on 5 hits, and the first ball is a rocket that gets under the glove of Hal Hughes. That's a tough ball to play, though, and likely they'll score this one a hit. 4 different errors today for the YD Red Sox, and the sloppy defense has really been their undoing.
Yeah, it certainly has been, especially with all 4 coming the last 3 innings and leading to a total of 4 unearned runs. So that's been the difference in this one. The solo shot from Winkle, the only earned run allowed by YD pitching, and then the 4 runs that have made it a 4-run deficit. But here we go. Carson Taylor reaches on a leadoff single. Let's see if YD can finally do something with it.
That is the 10th hit of the day for a YD team that has scored just 1 run. The pitch to Noah Cardenas, misses outside for a ball. As Cardenas is 1 for 3 today, a single back in the 5th inning. He, like many of his teammates, came around to third, but was unable to go any further than that as Harwich was able to cut the inning short just in time. 1-0 count. Will Heflin sets, brings home the pitch, and that's going to be taken near the middle. It's double playable. Acton steps on second himself, fires to first in time. It's going to be an unassisted, or not unassisted, but it'll be a
4-3 double play.
Yup, as Acton again got the ball, and Hal Hughes had to kind of dodge out of his way, but to his credit, he clears the bases himself, and with 2 away, here comes Jack Thomas Wall.
Yeah, things just going from bad to worse for YD, as the one thing you can't have in that situation is a tailor-made double play ball. That's exactly what it was, but we continue to see some phenomenal defense at second base from Corey Acton, the guy who played a lot of third base earlier in the season.
Wald's going to golf one and in the dirt. Acton will pick it up and throw on to first, and just like that, the inning is over. A quick 1-2-3 for the Harwich Mariners, courtesy of a quite literally tailor-made double play at second, and the M's are out of yet another inning. We go to the 8th. Harwich on top 5-1 when we come back here on the Harwich Mariners YouTube network. Welcome back to Red Wilson Field. Tyler Henry alongside Colin Casey. The Mariners looking to add more runs. They lead at 5-1. And Colin, what may be the weirdest game I think you or I have seen all season long.
Yeah, it's been really unprecedented bad defense from YD, who's been a top 3 team in defense all season long, but a couple of errors in the 5th inning kind of derailed that inning and gave Harwich a lead. Then 2 innings later, another big error plated 2 more runs, and YD just doing it to themselves, giving up all these free runs, and despite having the Mariners double up in the hit department, they trail 5-1. But YD was trailing 4-1 going into an 8th inning earlier in the season. They were able to strike 4 times, able to strike 4 times and take a 5-4 lead. They'll have to do it again here tonight. They want to keep a chance at taking Game 1 of this series.
It'll be Nico Cavadas, Christian Fetko, and Pat Winkle due up for the Harwich Mariners, and back out on the mound is Nolan McCarthy, so Harwich will have an opportunity to face him yet again. He hasn't given up a run of his own yet, but he did allow a couple to come across on a throwing error, so not really his fault, as the first pitch to Cavadas is in there for strike 1. Of course, the Mariners have been getting production out of most of their lineup today. Everybody has either reached base or driven in a run at one point or another, as this pitch misses inside to Cavadas. Actually, they're going to say it catches the zone, and the count goes 1-1 here on Nico.
Cavadas still looking for that first RBI of the playoffs and that first home run against the YD Red Sox this season.
The 1-1 to Cavadas. He'll watch that one go by. It will miss off the plate, though, so the count is 2-1.
One of the few teams in the CCPL that Cavadas hasn't really had a ton of success against this year.
But always a good time to break out of a cold snap, as we'll see whether or not Cavadas can put the pieces together with the 1-2. He will swing through that one for strike 3, and once again, Nico Cavadas goes back to the dugout empty-handed.
Yeah, 13th time he struck out this season against YD, a team that's got, middle-of-the-road pitching staff overall, but just been really tough times to the plate, albeit he has faced a lot of lefties, and we know he's a lot better against right-handed pitching. So we're going to get another pinch hitter here in this ball game as Mike Ludwig will grab a bat.
This will be the first appearance for Mike Ludwig. I wonder when we would see him, as he has not been in a playoff game yet for the Mariners. A really capable hitter, too. It's interesting that he hasn't been in there. Part of the problem is that you've got the logjam in the outfield, and then you got a couple of other infielders that you want to have at DH. But Ludwig finally getting his shots, and we'll see what he can do here against Nolan McCarthy. First pitch from McCarthy on its way. That'll be fouled back to the screen. Ludwig also a guy who's had a lot of success against the YD Red Sox this year.
And it makes a lot of sense to bring him in this situation, especially with the right-hander on the mound. A perfect guy to bring off the bench and maybe get something started here in the 8th with one away.
See what Ludwig can produce. One out, Pat Winkle standing on deck. McCarthy sets, here comes the pitch, and that will be a big hook that misses outside for a ball. YD can't find a way to come back in this game, and Harwich can find a way to get a win tomorrow. This could potentially be the last game of the year at Red Wilson Field as this pitch gets into Gallant for a strike. Still a lot of baseball left to play. Taking a look at it, Chris Gallant is hitting .286 this year against the YD Red Sox, including 2 RBIs. 1-2. This is high and away, and the count goes 2-2 here on Chris Gallant. Or sorry, not on Chris Gallant, on Mike Ludwig.
Katuitt and Falmouth underway. That game scoreless through 1 inning so far.
So finally the other game in playoff action as just 4 teams remain here in the Cape Cod Baseball League. The 2-2 to Ludwig. And that'll miss high, so a good eye there by Michael Ludwig. Keeps the count at 3-2. See whether or not he can cash in here. With the bases empty, 1 away, and Pat Winkle on deck. Here's Nolan McCarthy coming set. He's working out of the stretch as he has all game. The 3-2 is going to miss outside, and Mike Ludwig reaches on a 6-pitch walk to start the M's off here in the 8th.
Yeah, another great inning of patience so far from the Mariners. Just seeing a lot of pitches and gets him put in a spot to either draw a walk or drive one out into the outfield. And this time, Mike Ludwig able to set the table for Pat Winkle, a guy who's just been tearing the cover off the ball against YD as of late.
Yeah, Winkle is 2 for 3 in this game. He had the infield single in the 5th inning, and then, of course, actually had the bunt single back in the 5th inning, and the home run as he gives this one a pretty good ride, but well into foul territory. His solo shot gave Harwich a 3-0 lead. They would then go on to score 2 more runs in the 7th. Turned into a big productive inning for Harwich. They could potentially make it another one here with Mike Ludwig standing on first. Nolan McCarthy on the bump, and Pat Winkle, who is 2 for 3 at the plate. He takes a big cut at that pitch and swings through it to make the count 0-2.
Yeah, McCarthy going with the fastball upstairs, climbing the ladder. Something that Beller did a lot earlier in his start, and he found success, but he kind of strayed away from that in the middle innings, and I think that might have had something to do with him giving up so many more base runners.
So with an 0-2 count, McCarthy looking to get one more out here and put the inning closer to rest. Winkle will foul it off, though, and the count will stay 0-2 as, again, just working his way deep into a count here, something that Pat Winkle's been doing a better job of recently. The more pitches you see, the better chance you're going to have that McCarthy or anybody else is just going to get frustrated and try to challenge you with a fastball, and that's the exact pitch that he wants. Oh, 2 count. Here comes the pitch. And that's going to be in there for called strike 3. A breaking ball from McCarthy for the second out of the inning.
Yeah, really good breaking ball. Comes back over and catches the outside corner on Winkle as it was a fastball that Winkle hit out. This time he gets some off-speed pitches late in the count and unable to do anything with it.
So the last hope for the inning is with Corey Acton. Acton finally broke out of the cold stretch he had been in with a single back in the 7th. He did have 1 hit yesterday, so now 2 for 11 the postseason, and he will watch this one go by well outside for ball 1.
2 runs coming from the bottom of the order with Winkle and Acton, so these guys continue to support that top of the order as they have done over the last 2 weeks.
McCarthy deals the 1-0. That'll miss high. Runner takes off. It's going to be airmailed into center field. He's going to turn and try to go for third, and he's going to be in there without a throw. So it's going to be a double steal here for Mike Ludwig. A terrible throw from Noah Cardenas. I'm not really sure where that one was going, and that's going to put another insurance run just 90 feet away.
That's going to put another error on the board for YD. 5 errors in this ball game. We're still in the 8th inning. Just an inexcusable performance. You can't be making this many mistakes against a team like Harwich in the playoffs.
And they've come from all over the place, too. There was an error by the first baseman, the pitcher, the shortstop, the third baseman, and now the catcher. So just missing the second baseman, and we've got the quinfecta with the entire infield. As this one's taken near the middle, it'll come up to the second baseman. Campbell picks up, throws to first, and the inning is over. So Harwich leaves another man stranded, but they lead it 5-1 going into the bottom of the 8th. Will Heflin back out for another inning when we come back on the Harwich Mariners YouTube network. Welcome back to Red Wilson Field. Tyler Henry, Colin Casey bringing you coverage of the Eastern Division Championship Series between the Harwich Mariners and the YD Red Sox. And one other game going on. Colin, a quick score update from that one.
Yep, Katuitt taking an early 2-0 lead. Very important with them playing on the road to get off and running quickly, and they've certainly done that against a really good Falmouth team. Hey, if Katuitt's able to steal Game 1 on the road, they might be able to complete the sweep and send themselves to yet another championship series.
And of course, we are in the same scenario that we were in during round 1. Until round 2 is completed, there will not be any more baseball played, although that makes sense because without round 2 being completed for both teams, you have nobody to play against. So as soon as those teams are done, though, so if there are 2 sweeps, no matter who ends up winning on both sides, the next game will be played the following day. Both of these teams guaranteed at least one more game. It would come tomorrow at White House Field. Start time for that is set for 6:30 p.m. Standing in is R.J. Yeager. Yeager so far today is 1 for 3. First pitch to him is going to be on the outside corner from Will Heflin.
Yeah, for Katuitt, it was a Parker Chavers hard hit ball at short that was misplayed for the first run, and then a sac fly from Adam Oviedo.
1-0 is fouled away down the third base line. So Katuitt continues to manufacture runs. An offense that has been very good this year, but much like YD, a pitching staff that has been a bit lackluster at times. Part of the reason why the Katuitt Cavaliers went on a skid to end their season and finished up 500. But pitching prevails. Harwich has taught the rest of the league that as Heflin delivers the 0-1 in for a strike. Actually, the 1-0, I should say, and the count is now 1-2. Five errors committed in the game by YD. That's been the biggest glaring numbers. This one's fouled back to us. Right in front of the crowd mic once again.
Yeah, and the YD Red Sox, as we mentioned all game long, their offense has gotten them in position to really break the game open when they were leading 1-0. It just never happened, and then the defense just a complete meltdown.
1-2 pitch, once again fouled away. Doing a pretty good job of fighting it off here is R.J. Yeager, who has had a couple of really tough balls that he's hit. He had the double in the second. He had a ball that was saved by Corey Acton at second base back in the fourth, and then a standard ground out in the fifth. Heflin's 1-2 once again. This time it's put in play. Cavadas picks it at third base, fires all the way across, and Lanzilli will collect for out number 1. Harwich is just 4 outs away from closing this one out.
And I mean, it's continued to be a difference in the field in terms of these two teams. Sure, one error committed by Harwich, but it really wasn't a costly error because no run came across the score. Meanwhile, 5 errors from YD, 4 unearned runs. You look right there. Nico Cavadas has just looked so smooth over at third base for a guy that has played a lot of his games over at first.
He certainly has, and traditionally a guy that can play third. A couple of guys getting different spots as the first pitch to Brad Beasley's in there for a strike. As again, Dylan Noisy, a guy that played a lot of infield this year, but traditionally was not an infielder. He hadn't played anywhere on the infield since high school. As Heflin's 0-1 pitch misses low and away for ball 1. Will Heflin, fastball, curveball, slider. Pretty traditional stuff, but he has looked exceptional this season as he delivers home another strike to make it a 1-2 count.
Yeah, Heflin continues to attack these hitters. He got burned on a single from Taylor, first batter he faced, but since then, it's been nothing but zeros.
Through 24 innings pitched, a .75 ERA, and there's another swing and a miss as he gets Brad Beasley swinging out of his shoes for out number 2.
Yeah, the lowest ERA on the season for anyone that's been with the team for at least a couple of weeks for Will Heflin, just below Jacob Polish, a starting pitcher. So those two lefties have really been the difference makers, along with Connor McCullough and Joe Boyle, for the Harwich Mariners pitching rotation and bullpen.
Speaking of Jacob Polish, he's getting some much-needed rest today, not even listed as available. You get the feeling he could be available to start tomorrow's game, and I like Jacob Polish starting against pretty much anybody in the league, including guys who have won awards like Pitcher of the Year. The first pitch is in there for a strike. The other thing having Heflin does is it allows you to play a game like this where you get to the 6th inning, you can get out of it with a lead, and you bring Will Heflin in. He's not going to give up many runs, so with an 0-1 count, he goes back to work and misses low for ball 1.
And the great thing, too, is since Joe Boyle pitched those 3 innings back in Game 1 against Chatham, he will soon be also available within the coming days. So just a perfect scenario right now for the Harwich Mariners pitching staff.
1-1's taken near the 5-hole to be picked up by Hughes, who throws across. It will chase Lanzilli off the bag, though, and that is going to be a single here for Riley King.
11th hit of the ball game for the YD Red Sox, the second for Riley King, and just shockingly, it's only resulted in 1 run in the ball game.
1 measly run, and it was the leadoff man to start the game who scored it. Brad Beasley reached on a walk and then came in to score on a Noah Campbell fielder's choice. Since then, there have been 10 hits, a couple of walks, and a hit by pitch, and well, nobody's come across to score as Austin Wells stands up at the plate, but here's one of the best chances for the YD Red Sox. Wells puts a charge into that one, but he sends it out to shallow right field. Coming in to make the catch is Joey Weimer, and that will be out number 3. So once again, the YD Red Sox get a runner on, but can't make anything of it. We go to the 9th. Harwich with a chance to pad onto their 5-run lead, or 5-1 lead, when we come back on the Harwich Mariners YouTube network.
To the 9th we go from Red Wilson Field. Colin Casey alongside Tyler Henry. And quick reminder, this game is brought to you in part by Milton Cat. Milton Cat, the Cape and Island Caterpillar dealer, is proud to be a sponsor of today's ball game.
New pitcher coming into the game for the YD Red Sox. It will be Gordon Ingebrigtsen. And Colin, a guy who's seen Harwich a number of times this year, and it's interesting that they bring him in here. You may think that they're saving Nolan McCarthy for a future game that may have a little bit more meaning.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, McCarthy was able to minimize the damage. The only base runner he had allowed was that walk, and then there was also the error as well that took place. So, you know, just a decent performance from McCarthy, and it hasn't been really all that bad from a pitching standpoint for YD in this game. Just the defense has completely failed them.
Well, you can say the defense has failed them, but also the 2-out hitting has been non-existent throughout this game, with the exception of finding ways to get guys on base. Anytime you have a team that has how many runners left on base today, Colin?
14.
14 runners left on base, 12 runners left in scoring position. I mean, that's just unheard of in the game of baseball, but that's the game that we've seen today. And again, this might be one of the more bizarre games I've called. Harwich now has an opportunity to pad a few more runs on as Gordon Ingebrigtsen will face Hal Hughes, who stands in from the left side. McCarthy did not give up a hit during his time out there, and now the Submariner will fire the first pitch in for a strike.
Yeah, it'd be great for the Mariners to pick up a couple insurance runs with probably the best part of the order as of late, Hal Hughes, Dylan Noisy, Chris Galland.
Ingebrigtsen from UC Irvine will bring a pitch inside and plunk Hal Hughes. So that's how the inning will start for the Mariners, with a runner on first base and a bruise to deal with tomorrow.
Yeah, ball didn't come in at a whole lot of velocity, though, so I'm sure he just easily took that base. And another leadoff man on for the Mariners. We'll see if they can do anything with it. They were able to bring home a couple of runs the last time the leadoff man reached base. That was in the 7th, of course, with the leadoff home run from Pat Winkle.
And to the top of the order we go as Dylan Noisy comes up for a 5th time today. He's already reached base twice, and the first pitch he sees is high and tight for ball 1.
Noisy out of Texas Tech, his teammate Max Marshak, a reserve for the Mariners this season.
One of just 3 guys left after Mike Ludwig came in and pinch hit. That's the other thing to remember with Harwich doing all the damage they've done this year. It's been with very limited quantities of bodies to use, both out of the bullpen and the dugout, as the pitch is in for strike 1.
Tuit has added another run to their lead. They now lead at 3-0.
Yep, an early lead over the Falmouth Commodores, the team most favored to come out of the Eastern or Western Division. As the 1-1 pitch is on its way, that'll miss up and in once again to Dylan Noisy, and the count is now 2 balls and 1 strike.
Yeah, all 3 runs coming in the top of the second. It was a wild pitch that scored Dante Williams.
Harwich looking to find a way to come home with yet another victory. If they can, it would be their 3rd straight. As this pitch misses up and in again, count goes 3-1. It would also be 5 consecutive games without a loss, as they beat the Brewster Whitecaps in order to clinch a playoff spot, tied with them in a meaningless game 44, and then swept Chatham. So if they can get a victory here, it will have been 5 consecutive games without an L, as this one swung through and missed wildly by Dylan Noisy, and the count goes 3-2.
Ingebrigtsen looking to battle back and avoid putting on 2 guys to start the inning. I mean, 4 runs is still attainable, especially with a lineup like YD, but if it gets any further than that, things would start to look even more bleak.
Especially with a heart of the order looming for the Harwich Mariners. Chris Galland on deck, and then, of course, Chris Lanzilli and Joey Weimer, the next couple guys that are due up. So, full count here to Dylan Noisy. He's already worked his way into one of these positions. He reached on a walk, and he thought he was going to have one there, but he's going to be called out. Strike 3 called by the home plate umpire, and that's out number 1.
Noisy not too happy, shaking his head as he walks back to the dugout. It looked like a breaking ball that was bending back towards the strike zone. Not sure if it was able to catch the corner, but certainly was in the eyes of the home plate umpire. So much needed out number 1 for Ingebrigtsen and the YD Red Sox.
As Chris Galland comes to the plate, that 3rd run by Tuit was scored on a wild pitch. So things coming unraveled a little bit here for the Falmouth Commodores early on. Runner takes off towards second. Galland fouls the first pitch away from Ingebrigtsen, and the count goes 0-1.
Chris Galland just reaching base once on a walk back in the 4th. Other than that, a strikeout and a couple of flyouts. Was an important pop-out, though, in the 7th that moved up a runner before a 2-run error expanded the lead from 3 to 5.
0-1 pitch will miss outside here. So, again, Colin, you mentioned it's been a couple of really interesting games played between these two all season long. Today's game no exception, as both teams have had crucial opportunities. Harwich has gotten theirs late, and for the most part, they've capitalized. They scored 2 in the 5th, 3 in the 7th, and that represents the 5 runs they have as they're up 5-1. Galland swings and misses for strike 3. Throw down to second's a good one, and that is going to nail the runner. So it's a strike him out, throw him out, double play.
Yeah, the second base umpire didn't even make a signal. I don't know what he's doing out there.
And still standing on second there is Hal Hughes, who was thrown out by quite some distance. And now there will be a signal. But yeah, David Perry just didn't make a signal at all.
Yeah, what happened was Joe Labella was the one who made the signal, but he shouldn't be making that call over from first base. There's a second base umpire for a reason. There's a reason why we got 4 guys out here in the playoffs to cover each base.
That's actually my mistake. It's not a strike him out, throw him out, as Chris Galland just had a 1-1 count. So the count is 1-2. Hughes is off the base pass, and the Mariners have out number 2 here in the inning. But yeah, just a bizarre play, and I have no idea what's going on down there at second base. Here comes the 1-2 to Galland. That will be strike 3, and that will end the inning as back-to-back strikeouts retire the side. So Harwich with a 4-run lead, 3 outs away from locking up game 1 and heading back with an opportunity to sweep. They put themselves on the doorstep. We'll see if they can get there after this on the Harwich Mariners YouTube network. Welcome back to the bottom of the ninth. Hopefully the final inning of play here as Harwich leads 5-1. Tyler Henry alongside Colin Casey, and Colin back out there for another inning. It's Will Heflin looking to put the cap on this one and take Harwich into a opportunity to sweep again with a home game coming up tomorrow at 6:30 that would be for a spot in the final.
Yep, 3 important outs to get for Heflin and the Harwich Mariners going through the heart of the order, but for YD, if they're unable to come back and at the very least tie this game to extend it, they're really going to be looking back at both their defensive woes and the fact that they have left so far 14 men on base. Just a really big waste in terms of offense and, I guess, pitching for the YD Red Sox so far in this game.
YD has left 14 runners on base. They have left 12 runners in scoring position, and they are now down to their final 3 outs. They trail 5-1 despite out hitting the Mariners 11-5, and they have committed a whopping 5 errors. First pitch is on its way. That'll be fouled away by Tate Samuelson, who is the leadoff man here for YD. And you wonder, Colin, whether or not Scott Pickler will be a little bit more patient with his guys, as this is the best part of the order. The only guy I'd question whether or not we'd see typically it's Carson Taylor, but he's 2 for 4 today as the 0-1 pitch is taken to short, picked up by Hughes, and he throws on to first in time for out number 1.
And that time just a routine ground ball. Samuelson was having a strong day, 3 for 4. Still a respectable day at the plate getting base hits. He's done his job, but no one's really been able to get that important big hit that plates a run for YD, and time is just all but out.
Red Sox still have plenty of offense, but so far they haven't scored a run since the very first hitter of the day. As Noah Campbell, who is 0 for 4, comes to the plate, brings the first pitch home from Will Heflin, and that's going to miss for ball 1. Of course, Campbell had the RBI that scored Brad Beasley back in the first.
It's crazy that their only RBI didn't even come on a hit.
Of course, they have 11 hits, and of course their 1 RBI came on a fielder's choice as Heflin's fastball misses low.
Just an unbelievable lack of hitting when it mattered the most, and you got to have clutch hitting if you want to win games and win championships. I'm sure Scott Pickler knows that.
2-0 will miss. Actually, they're going to say it catches the zone, so the count goes 2-1 here. Will Heflin looking to close the door. It would be a 3-inning save for him, I believe, if he's able to complete it. 2-1, taking a third. Cavadas picks it up. Once again, he'll fire across. Lanzilli falling off the bag, and he still hung on.
What a play.
Chris Lanzilli was falling down to the ground. He somehow had the knowledge to keep his foot on the bag and makes the catch from Cavadas for out number 2.
Yeah, at first I thought that ball got completely past him because he really had to lunge out on that one. But he was able to get the ball, and he got his toe to stay on the bag. And there's the difference right there, Tyler. Great defense versus subpar defense. Certainly been the difference today.
So Harwich has put themselves just 1 out away, and here comes Carson Taylor. First pitch is going to miss outside for a ball. Will Heflin not exactly pounding the zone here, but he's got plenty of leeway to work with. His defense has backed him up. A couple of really stellar defensive plays have been also a big part of the reason why YD's been kept off the board. Here comes the 1-0 pitch. That'll just miss for a ball 2.
Taylor, as you mentioned earlier, 2 hits in the ball game. He's led off a couple of innings, but hasn't really resulted in anything.
Heflin's 2-0. Swung on and missed as he got him to go with the fastball high, and seen a lot of fastballs here out of Will Heflin. Again, he does have the changeup and the slider, but his off-speed has not been mixed in nearly as much today. 2-1 to Taylor. Just misses low for ball 3, and the count is 3-1.
The other crazy thing about this game is YD Sox hitters have only struck out 5 times in this game, so not a lot of strikeouts. It's just they've put the ball in play at times, but not hard enough contact to get a gap.
3-1, swung on and missed as that one goes right past the bat of Carson Taylor. The Mariners are now just 1 strike away from stealing yet another Game 1. Harwich here at Red Wilson Field on the road. They already got it done once at Veterans Field, looking to get it done here at Red Wilson and take a 1-0 lead back home. 3-2 pitch, swung on and taken out to left field. Galland with time makes the catch, and the Harwich Mariners have taken a 1-0 lead here over the YD Red Sox. They get the win 5-1 and will head back home for a 6:30 game and a chance at the playoff championship game. We will take a break. When we come back, we'll put the cap on it here on the Harwich Mariners YouTube network. Welcome back to Red Wilson Field. Here to put the cap on it, Tyler Henry, Colin Casey. The most bizarre game of baseball that I've ever seen. Maybe not the one you've seen, or certainly the one that I've called, but the Harwich Mariners get the win 5-1. Let's give you the stats first, as the stats really are the story today. The Harwich Mariners score 5 runs on 5 hits. They have 1 error, and Colin, you caught up on runners left on base?
I certainly am, as for the Harwich Mariners, they did leave 6 guys on base, but again, they brought home 5 runs. YD, of course, just the 1 run back in the first, and they stranded 14 runners on base. And I think the big one to really look at was that bases loaded scenario in the 4th inning. They had a really good opportunity at the time to expand their lead from 1-0, potentially 2-3, 4-0, and they just couldn't get the job done. It's something that they'll certainly be thinking about as they go to bed tonight, but maybe they'll use it as motivation tomorrow night. They'll get another opportunity, season on the line, and they're going to need to be playing their hearts out and play better in terms of clutch hitting and on defense.
So the Harwich Mariners escape with yet another tight victory dictated by pitching. An excellent day for Carson Seymour, who comes in to relieve Jared Weatherby, who gives up just the 1 run, and then Will Heflin comes in for a 3-inning save after that. And with that, Colin, I will turn it over to you to recap what has turned into a wild day here for the Ems.
Thank you very much, Tyler, and as you mentioned, 5 runs on 5 hits, just the 1 error for Harwich. They left 6 on base. YD, the 1 run on 11 hits. They committed 5 errors in the field, and one of the sloppier games that we have seen this season, and 14 runners left on base, something you don't see very often, and it happened at the worst possible time for the YD Red Sox. The win in this one goes to Carson Seymour, his first victory of the season. Boy, what a time for it as he clinches Game 1 of the Eastern Division Championship Series here in the CCBL playoffs for the Harwich Mariners. The loss goes to John Beller. He falls to 1-3 on the year, but a very respectable performance from him, going 6 innings, giving up 2 runs, neither of them earned, on 3 hits while walking 2 and striking out 8. The save in this game goes to Will Heflin, as he was able to go 3 innings and qualify himself for a save. 3 shutout innings, or excuse me, he went, 3 shutout innings for Will Heflin. He did not give up any hits, or he gave up 2 hits, pardon me, didn't give up any runs, and yielded 0 walks while striking out just the 1 batter. So a strong performance from the Tennessee lefty, and he picks up another save on the year. I believe that is his 4th save of the season for Will Heflin. So the Mariners take a 1-0 series lead. They improve to, including the regular season, 24-21-2 on the year. Loss for YD drops them down to 24-20-3 as they trail with their backs against the wall 0-1 in this best-of-3 game series. Next game will be tomorrow night. I believe the time is at 6:30 at White House Field as the Harwich Mariners look to clinch and head to the championship series in front of their home crowd and try to win their first championship since the 2011 season. We'll have that game and television coverage on the Harwich Mariners YouTube network, with coverage starting probably around 6 o'clock as we do some pregame for that one. Final score from Red Wilson Field: the Harwich Mariners knock off the Yarmouth Dennis Red Sox by a final score of 5-1. For all of us here in the Harwich Mariners broadcast booth, for our producer Matt Lucy, for my broadcast partner Tyler Henry, I'm Colin Casey. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you tomorrow night. So long, everybody.